Leave family to your place of exile. Shang Ruai was stunned for a moment when she heard the words. Move to the place of exile? Grandfather, the Li family is a century-old family in Bailing. If you leave, it will involve a lot of people. Have you really thought about it? Li Huayan smiled with relief. How many years do I have left in this life? The Li family will be handed over to you sooner or later. After 100 years, I don't care what the Li family looks like. As long as you live a stable life, I will be at ease. Shang Ruai didn't expect that her trip to Bailing would bring a century-old family back to Tianshan. Before leaving, she went to Zhou's house to say goodbye. Girl, you must take the token that Manager Zhou gave you. My Zhou family's businesses are spread across 4 countries. You are my adopted daughter. With this token, all the Zhou family's businesses are at your disposal. He looked at her face, as if he was missing an old friend through her face. If anyone dares to bully you, be sure to tell your adoptive father. Thank you, adoptive father. Manager Zhou said that day that you are the granddaughter of the Li family? That's right. Shang Ruai recounted her mother's life experience, and Manager Zhou nodded in understanding. Moving the Li family to Tianshan is not an easy task. Is there anything I need your help with? There is indeed one thing I need your help with. She whispered. Please ask your adoptive father to send someone to investigate Li Winshan and his concubine, Aunt Jean. Okay, as soon as there is news, I will send someone to notify you. After leaving the Zhou family, she went to see Jun Zigan again. She would return to Tianshan soon, and there were some things she wanted to make clear to him first. My legs have recovered 80%. Jun Ziqian said with a smile. I thought I wouldn't be able to see you again before I left. Nan Charan couldn't help but feel a little upset when he heard this. If he said this to a girl, it would be normal, but why is it so awkward to say it to a man? What's wrong with you? Seeing that she didn't speak, Jun Ziqian frowned. But what happened? Shang Ruai whispered. Can you go out first? Nan Charan, who was about to take a look at the excitement, was stunned for a moment, and then realized that these words were said to him. He smacked his lips and stood up. I'm leaving, can I leave? After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and left. Jun Ziqian frowned. What's the matter? I heard Master Nan mention the princess that day. I wonder if the prince can tell me about the princess? Jun Ziqian had never seen such a serious look in her eyes. Why are you asking her? This matter is very important to me. If the prince is willing to tell me, Ling Jun will be grateful. In fact, I have never seen my mother. He lowered his voice. Since I can remember, there has only been my father in the mansion. I have only seen the portrait of my mother, which was treasured by my father in the bedroom. Has the prince ever looked for the princess? Yes, but the world is so big. How difficult is it to find someone? He sighed. So many years have passed. Some things should be let go. He looked at Shang Ruai. Why are you asking me these today? Shang Ruai thought about it and put her hand on the mask. After hesitating for a moment, she took off the mask. Jun Ziqian was stunned when he saw the face that was 70% similar to his own. The teacup in his hand shattered. You are. With just one glance, he knew that the person in front of him was his brother. The day I met the prince, I felt very kind and familiar. Now I think it may be because of blood relationship. Jun Ziqian hadn't come back to his senses yet. She was very similar to the woman in the painting that his father hung in the bedroom, but her expression was different, and her age was also different. You, he choked. Are you my brother? Shang Ruai laughed and reached out to pull the hairpin off. Her black hair fell down. She smiled and said, Brother. Jun Ziqian's fingers curled up slightly, his eyes full of surprise. Is this really his sister? I am the concubine daughter of Shang Nian, the Prime Minister of Tianshan. Shang Ruai tied her hair up again. My mother is Shang Nian's concubine, Aunt Wei, but I have used secret methods to check that you and I are siblings with the same father and mother. Jun Ziqian did not doubt her words. He did hear his father mention that his mother was indeed pregnant when she left. And the person in front of him, if nothing unexpected happened, was that child. How have you been through these years? She briefly talked about her experiences over the years. After listening, Jun Ziqian frowned tightly. His mother is dead, his sister is married, and was exiled by Emperor Tianshun. He clenched his fists. Is the old emperor tired of living? He dared to bully his sister, and that old man Shangnian dared to use her as a. He is really tired of living. And He Jingheng. He can't even protect a woman. He is a waste. Come back to the palace with me. Putting his hand on her shoulder, Jun Ziqian said firmly, with father and brother here, no one will bully you. No one can bully me. Shang Ruai said with a smile. Who can bully me? Jun Ziqian asked her many more questions, and Shang Ruai answered them one by one. When do you want to go back to the western region with me? He just met her for the first time and wanted to take her back to the western region immediately. Brother, have you heard of Chiyu Villa? Jun Ziqian nodded. Chiyu Villa is famous in the western region. I naturally know it. Why, do you have a grudge against them? Shang Ruai hurriedly said. It's not a grudge, but there are some things I want to ask their owner. Don't go to trouble them. Looking at his posture, as long as she said she had a grudge against someone, he would immediately pick up a knife and kill her. In fact, Jun Ziqian really thought so. This is his sister, the apple of their city prince's eye. Now she has suffered so much outside. How can he not feel distressed? I will report to my father when I return to the western regions. I'm sure he will be happier than me. His father treats a fake girl with such love. If he knew that there was another daughter in this world who is wandering outside, he would definitely praise her to the sky. It's better not to tell him yet. Shang Ruai whispered. I'll tell him when I go to the western regions. If she told him now, she was afraid that she would be taken back to the western regions by the king of the city before she could return to the place of exile. Now the Leaf family still needs to be settled, and it won't be too late to recognize each other after everything has settled down. Hearing her say this, Jun Zigan knew what she was thinking and said with a smile, If father knew that you were alive and heard that you had suffered so many grievances, I am afraid he would gather troops and attack Tianshan overnight. Hearing him say this, Shang Ruai couldn't help swallowing. I can do whatever you want, but there is one thing. Jun Zigan's eyes were slightly cold, and Shang Ruai's intuition told her that what Jun Zigan was going to say was definitely related to He Jingheng. If that brat He Jingheng treats you badly, you should send someone to the western regions immediately, and your brother will come to pick you up home in person.
Boom.
Shang Ruai felt that something in her heart softened instantly. Is this what it feels like to have someone protecting you? Brother. Junze patted her head. Silly girl. Why are you crying? He comforted her with his mouth, but his eyes were red. Nan Charan sat in the yard and waited for a while. Seeing that the door was closed, he rubbed his slightly frozen arms and walked to the door. Just as he was about to knock on the door, he heard Jun Zigan's chuckle from inside. He couldn't help but be stunned. What was so extraordinary about this kid named Ling Jun? It actually made Jun Zigan laugh again, and this time he not only laughed but also laughed out loud. Brother, you still need to be careful about Jun Luoyun. She told him about the several times Jun Luoyun had poisoned her. She has evil intentions and is definitely not a good person. Jun Zigan nodded. I've seen that a long time ago. I thought she was good at medicine, so father invited famous doctors to teach her. But now she has learned unconventional ways. It seems that this city prince's palace can't tolerate her. The two talked in the room for a long time, so long that even Xiaoyao began to get anxious. After all, the lady is a woman. She has been alone in a room with a strange man for such a long time. If he has any bad thoughts, wouldn't the lady be at a disadvantage? She gritted her teeth, walked to the door, and whispered, Miss, it's getting late. Shang Ruai naturally guessed what Xiaorao was thinking, but it was just as she said. The sky was getting dark, and they were about to set off tomorrow. The Leaf family still had many things that needed her to deal with. On the way to Li's house, Shang Ruai touched the jade pendant in her hand and recalled Jun Zigan's words, and the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. Xiaoyao was riding in the same carriage with her, and when she saw her expression, she couldn't help but tremble in her heart. Could it be that the young lady has some other thoughts about the prince of the city? Mississippi. She hesitated for a moment and said softly, Miss, what do you think of the prince of this city? What about her own brother? Of course it is excellent. Of course he is the best man in the world. That's it. Xiaoyao felt a chill in her heart. As far as I can remember, the young lady never seemed to have such a high opinion of her son-in-law. A first-rate man. It's obvious that he has taken a fancy to her. Miss, what's good about the Prince of City? Of course he's good in every way. She spread out her hands and counted. His appearance and family background are needless to say, and his personality is calm and resolute. There's nothing wrong with him at all. Shang Ruai looked at Xiaorao with a smile. Why are you asking me these today? Miss, the Prince of City is a foreigner after all. So what? She looked outside the car door and found that Ah Chung, who had been looking straight ahead, was now slightly tilting his head to listen to their conversation. Shang Ruai's tone was not as gentle as before. She looked at Xiaoyao and whispered, You haven't even got married yet, but you've already turned your elbow outward. Now you've learned to help others test your young lady? Xiaoyao was startled and said quickly, Miss, I dare not, but today the young lady has been in the same room with the Prince of City for a long time, and I am worried that he'll have ill intentions, so. That's all. She waved her hands. There are some things that you will understand in the future, but there is one thing you must remember. If you are unfaithful once, you will never be trusted again. If you can't be of the same mind with me, you'd better go and find someone else as soon as possible. The betrayal in her previous life always made her feel like a thorn in her throat whenever she thought of it. So for her, loyalty is the most important thing. My lady has been very kind to me. Even if you put a knife to my neck, I will not betray you. Ah Cheng, who was driving the car, immediately sat up straight, not daring to eavesdrop on anything. When she returned to Li's house, Shang Ruai saw that the yard was full of boxes. Sister Shang. Li Xia ran over. My grandfather and I have already packed the luggage, and we are ready to set off as soon as we load it onto the car. She hugged Shang Ruai's arm. Sister Shang, I am very happy when I think that I can see you every day in the future. Shang Ruai looked at the boxes all over the yard, swallowed her saliva, and walked up to the old man. Grandpa, are you never going to come back to the Li family? I saw that even the home furnishings were put together. Those who know about it think we are moving, while those who don't think our house is being ransacked. My old bones can't stand all this going back and forth. I'm afraid I'll never come back after leaving this time. What about the Eastern Pearl clam? Shang Ruai said softly. Now the Li family has just raised the purple dongju, which is very popular. Wouldn't it be a pity to abandon it like this? The Eastern Pearl clam is the Li family's century-long hard work. It would be a pity to throw it away. He looked at Shang Ruai, and his eyes lit up. This purple dongju was raised by you. Where did you put the batch of dongju you took away before? In Tianshan. Isn't that perfect? Transport all the dongju here to Tianshan. You can raise 10,000 dongju or several million dongju. From now on, the dongju business will be entirely in your hands. Hearing this, Li Xia hurriedly stepped forward and echoed, It would be best to leave it to Sister Shang. Shang Ruai held her forehead. How come the Li family's stall finally fell on her? She seriously suspected that the grandfather and grandson had to go back to Tianshan with her because they were determined to entrust the Li family to her. At night, a black figure shuttled through the night sky. When she came to the farm, Shang Ruai waved her hand and collected all the Eastern Pearl mussels in the pool into the space. The next morning, the servants came to the pool to work as usual, but they were shocked to find that there was nothing in the pool. There were millions of Eastern Pearl mussels. How could they disappear without a trace overnight? When this matter came to the ears of the old man of the Li family, his eyes fell on Shang Ruai. He remembered that when he was leaving yesterday, his granddaughter said a method of escaping from the shell, which must be this. Their Li family is an imperial merchant. If they want to leave here, they can only use this method. But with so many Eastern Pearl mussels, how did she make them all disappear without alarming anyone? His granddaughter seemed different from others. She seemed to be able to plan everything. After protecting the Li family from wind and rain for so many years, this was the first time he enjoyed the care of others. The theft of the Eastern Pearl oyster spread throughout the capital of Bailing. Upon hearing this, Zhang He ran excitedly to Madame Zhang's yard. Mom, have you heard? The Li family has fallen. Humph. Serves you right. Madame Zhang spat. They humiliated me in every way that day and brought shame to our Zhang family. Today, I will let them have a taste of this. She moved her chubby body and stood up. Go and get the engagement token of Miss Li. Judging from a situation, the engagement will be officially cancelled today. Mother, now that the Li family has fallen, it will be very difficult for Li Xia to get married. But the master said that her horoscope is auspicious for me, so my son thought it would be better to marry her back. The pearl oysters of their Li family have been stolen, but their other properties are still there, which is also a lot of money. The most important thing is that Li Xia has a beautiful and charming face. When he got engaged to her, he was attracted by her beauty. Silly son, why are you so stubborn? Madame Zhang tapped his forehead vigorously. The Li family, now without Dongzhu, can no longer become an imperial merchant. They are just a poor family. What qualifications do they have to be the mistress of our Li family? It's better to bring her back as a concubine. Madame Zhang's eyes flashed with a calculating light. You are going to be the prime minister, so you will naturally marry a lady from an official family, a legitimate lady in the future. Zhang, he was overjoyed when he heard this. Why didn't he think of this? He said with a little excitement, It turns out that my mother is thoughtful. Humph. Let us go to the Li family to see the excitement. When they arrived at the door of the Li family, they saw two servants carrying boxes out.
Oh.
Madame Zhang put her handkerchief to her lips and laughed unabashedly. What happened? Was the house confiscated? Without waiting for the servant to report, she stepped into the gate and said in a cold voice, Is the head of the Li family still alive? Li Xia happened to be directing the servants to move things in the yard. When she heard such impudent words, she turned around and frowned. What are you doing here? You are so uneducated. It's okay for you not to be polite to your elders, but you dare to talk to me like this. You are really a lowly who was born by a mother but not raised by her. Li Xia clenched her fists when she heard this. If she didn't want to cause trouble, she would have raised her hand and slapped him. At this moment, Zhang Ruai's voice sounded from not far away. Peony, slap your face. Peony strode forward, and when no one reacted, she quickly raised her hand and slapped Madame Zhang in the face. Maids from wealthy families have a lot of rules for slapping. After a slap, the face will swell up instantly. Xiaoyao used all her strength, and Madame Zhang's lips were faintly bleeding. Zhang he came to his senses and raised his hand to hit Xiaoyao, but a big hand grabbed his hand tightly. You are tired of living, and you dare to touch anyone. Ah Cheng's eyes were full of coldness. He exerted force with his hands, and Zhang he let out a pig-killing howl.
Ah Cheng.
After hearing Zhang Ruai's words, Ah Cheng let go of his hand. Zhang he held his hand that was about to break from being squeezed, and said in a trembling voice, You dare to hit me. I'll hit you if I want to, but why do I have to bathe, burn incense, and choose an auspicious day? I'm a scholar. He shouted loudly, Scholar. The neighbors around here all know that your Zhang family has a scholar. Zhang Ruai snorted coldly. You also said that he is just a scholar, not the top scholar, nor the prime minister. You keep talking about the scholar all day long. You are really useless. She glanced at the Zhang family. When you become the prime minister, come and show off. Shame on you. You. Madame Zhang heard her say this, covering her face and shouting, I'm going to file a complaint. I'm going to file a complaint with the emperor. The Li family actually beat the scholar's mother openly. Go to Gao. Zhang Ruai sneered. We in the Li family also have something to say to the prefect. I want to ask, this of your Li family, who has not yet married a wife but has already taken in concubines and more than one, how can he be qualified to become a scholar with such a character? How can he be qualified to continue to take the imperial examinations and become a role model for students all over the world? Zhang Ruai's words can be said to be directly stabbed at the heart of the Zhang family. Now the most important thing for the Zhang family is Zhang He's future. If he can't take the imperial examinations for some reason, then he'll be completely finished in the future. The Zhang family is just a common people and can only hope that Zhang he will succeed. If his future is ruined, the Zhang family will be finished. Knowing the intricacies of this, Mrs. Zhang had no choice but to bite the bullet and swallow her anger. Zhang, he also stopped fighting and just stared at Shang Ruai with a pair of eyes. You haven't told me why you came to my Li family today. Shang Ruai said impatiently. If you have something to say it quickly. If you don't, get out of here quickly, and don't get in the way. Madame Zhang gathered her outer robe and raised her chin slightly. We are here today to return the token. She reached out and took out the jade pendant from the box. This is the jade pendant exchanged with your Li family when we got engaged. It has the surname and birth date of your Liet. The maid behind Li Xia stepped forward and was about to take the jade pendant. At this moment, Madame Zhang loosened her hand holding the jade pendant and saw that the jade pendant fell straight to the ground and broke into 2 pieces. You! Ouch! I'm sorry. My hand slipped and the jade pendant broke. Li Xia stepped forward, ready to argue with her. Shang Ruai stretched out her hand to stop her. Pick it up. Shang Ruai's voice was cold. Mrs. Zhang looked nonchalant. I just won't pick it up. What can you do to me? She sneered. Do you think the Li family is the same as before? I'll say it for the last time. Pick it up. Mrs. Zhang raised her chin and said disdainfully, Dream on. Your Li family is now a ruined family. If you know what's good for you, our Zhang family can take your daughter as a concubine. If you don't know what's good for you, I'm afraid it will be difficult for her to find a husband. Shang Ruai stepped forward, her eyes full of coldness. If you don't accept the toast, you will be punished. Ah Cheng, please invite the prefect and tell him that someone broke our Li family's fine warm jade and refused to admit it. Please ask the prefect to come and deal with it impartially. Yes. Ah Cheng took the order and left. When he walked to the door, he closed the door. Seeing this, Shang Ruai raised the corners of her lips slightly. As expected of her subordinates, she had good eyes. Before the Zhang family could react to what was happening, they saw her wave her hand, and several guards approached. Someone came to our Li family to cause trouble. How should we deal with it? Of course, we should fight back. Zhang he heard this and stepped back again and again. What are you going to do? Of course I'm going to teach you a lesson. You should know who can offend whom, and you can't afford to offend. Shang Ruai whispered, Call them. Several guards surrounded the Zhang family. How could the people brought by Madame Zhang be their opponents? Those servants were knocked down as soon as they met, and they didn't attack the women, but Zhang he was beaten badly, with bruises all over his face and no good spots on his body. Madame Zhang wanted to stop him, but she was thrown aside before she could step forward. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Madame Zhang shouted. I want to report to the police. I want to report to the police. At this time, footsteps were heard outside the door. The voice of Lord Qian came over. Let me see who wants to report to the police. As the door opened, Qian Jin walked in with a group of guards. What's going on? Sir, please help me. Madame Zhang rushed over. My lord, you must help me. The Li family is lawless. They locked us in this yard and ordered the guards to beat us in broad daylight. Look at my son's face and the injuries on his body. It's all her. She pointed at Shang Ruai. She ordered the servants to do it. Oh. Sir Qian's eyes fell on Zhang He. At this time, Zhang He was already lying on the ground. The pain on his body made him groan. Ouch, ouch, it hurts so much. TSK, this seems to be a bit serious. Lord Qian looked at Shang Ruai. Although he didn't smile, there was a hint of respect in his eyes. Dr. Ling Jun, do you have anything to say in defense? Sir, why are you still asking her? The evidence is conclusive. You should just convict her directly. Zhang put her hands on her waist and pointed at the Li family members. This family should be arrested and beaten with dozens of boards to see if they dare to be so arrogant. Lord Qian frowned. He finally knew why this divine Dr. Ling Jun beat the Zhang family. If it were him, he would probably want to slap her twice. Are you a lord or am I a lord? Will you judge this case or will I? Lord Qian looked at her with disdain. Whose family are you from? How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? I am a commoner from the Zhang family. She pointed at Zhang He, who was still lying on the ground wailing, and said, "This is my son. He is a scholar." Madame Zhang said proudly, "My son passed the examination to become a scholar when he was only 20 years old. Maybe he will serve as an official in the same court with you in the future." "What the? Scholar? He passed the examination to become a scholar at the age of 20? Lord Qian looked at Zhang He with disdain and laughed sarcastically. "Scholar? There are so many scholars in Bailing. Where did I know any Scholar Zhang or Scholar Wang? And serve as an official in the same court. He passed the examination to become a scholar at the age of 20. With such qualifications, he still wants to serve as an official in the court? Even if he serves as an official in the court, it is estimated that he will have to wait for decades. Maybe he will reach the age of retiring and returning home before he can become an official." Lord Qian's words made people around him laugh out loud. "What are you laughing at?" Madame Zhang waved her hand like a shrew. "What's so funny? Go stand aside. You are not allowed to speak privately without my question." Lord Qian scratched his ears. Zhang's voice was too sharp. The servant put the jade pendant in his hand. "Is this the jade pendant that Zhang threw on the ground?" "Yes." Shang Ruai said, "This jade pendant is a priceless warm jade. Now it is broken by Zhang, but she refuses to admit it." Lord Qian looked at the jade pendant and nodded. "It is indeed a very rare jade. What a pity, what a pity. What a pity. What's a pity? If this jade pendant can be used to teach the Zhang family a lesson, it will not be a pity at all. This jade pendant was clearly broken because that stinky girl didn't hold it properly. Why should I be blamed for it?" Zhang shouted loudly, "Slander. You are slandering." Lord Qian frowned. "Did you fall on deaf ears when I said what I just said? Who allowed you to interrupt without my asking? Someone come here." As soon as Lord Qian finished speaking, a guard stepped forward and slapped her. Zhang was knocked to the ground. The guard's hand strength was not comparable to that of a little girl like Xiaoyao. Zhang's face swelled up instantly, and not only that, but even her ears were buzzing. Shang Ruai snorted coldly. Mrs. Zhang clearly said that her hand slipped and she didn't hold it firmly, so the warm jade was broken. The door was open just now, and the neighbors were all witnesses. "What? Madame Zhang still wants to deny it." She swallowed her saliva and wanted to argue a few more words, but the burning pain on her face made her shut her mouth quickly. "Since the warm jade was broken by the Zhang family, I will sentence the Zhang family to compensate according to the price." Hearing this, Zhang knelt on the ground with a plop. She didn't dare to speak, so she had to point at her son on the ground. Lord Qian frowned. Was this scholar Zhang beaten like this by your Li family? Hearing this, Zhang glared at everyone in the Li family with hatred. "That's right. Sir, look. She admitted it. Please make the decision, sir." Zhang said loudly. "Sir, please have mercy on my son. Sir Qian, we beat him, we admit it, but in fact it is Zhang, he who deserves to be beaten." Shang Ruai pulled Li Xia forward. "Sir, our Li family's legitimate daughter married him to a commoner, but the Zhang family was still not satisfied. They took in several concubines before the marriage, and now they even have children. Not only that, according to the original marriage between the two families, the legitimate daughter of our Li family should be the legitimate wife. Now that the Li family has fallen, they want to change the marriage contract and change the legitimate wife to a concubine. Such an unkind and unjust person. Shouldn't he be beaten?" Looking at the sudden change in the faces of the Zhang family, she continued, "The Zhang family talks about scholars all day long. I really don't know how such shameless people can have the face to be role models for students all over the world." Lord Qian nodded when he heard this. "The miracle doctor is right. Sir, you are innocent." At this moment, the people watching the excitement outside the door said, "They dare to shout that they are innocent." A few days ago, the concubine was kneeling at the door of the Zhang family with the child in her arms, saying that she wanted to take the child to recognize her ancestors. I saw it too, and she was crying so pitifully. TSK. Lord Qian frowned when he heard this. "There are so many witnesses, and you still dare to lie." "Sir, I was just confused for a moment." "Zhang," he said. So, you admit what you did? At this point, he wanted to deny it, but the concubine cried in the street, and so many people saw it. How could he dare to quibble? Humph, you really disgrace the scholars. Lord Qian said angrily, I will report your affairs to the Academy truthfully, deprive you of your title of scholar, and forbid you to take the imperial examinations and enter the government for the rest of your life.
What?
Zhang He's body, which couldn't stand straight, completely collapsed. Zhang also fell to the ground, as if her soul had been out. In the end, the two of them were dragged back to Zhang's house by servants. In this way, the Zhang family was completely finished. The few shops and farms could not hold on for long under the deliberate squeeze of the Zhou and Li families. It was even more painful for the Zhang family to be in such a state today than to kill them. Thank you very much, Lord Qian today. Shang Ruai took out some pills. I am a doctor, and I don't have anything good to give you. These pills are all my thoughts. Lord Qian put the pills into his sleeve pocket with a smile. It's just a small favor for me, but your pills are not ordinary ones. Recently, the auction house has successively auctioned some pills made by the divine Dr. Ling Jun. Each pill is very valuable, and it is hard to get one pill. Now that he has so many pills in his hands, if others know about it, I don't know how envious they will be. After packing up everything, they finally boarded the carriage to Tianshan. Li Xia sat in the carriage, with a hint of excitement in her voice. Sister Shang, when I was young, I longed to live in Tianshan. I didn't expect that one day I would really settle down in Tianshan. Why do you like Tianshan? Tianshan is vast and rich in resources, with 4 distinct seasons. It is not like Bailing, where half of the year is winter. Every New Year's Day, I would ask my father to take me to Tianshan, even though I have only been to Qingzhou City. You haven't been to the capital of Tianshan? Li Xia shook her head. The journey is long, and I have never been there. When the weather gets warmer, I will take you to the capital when I have time. There are many delicious and fun things there. Really? Li Xia thought of Shang Ruai, who had lived in the capital before, and said with a smile, I guess sister knows everything about the capital. Shang Ruai shook her head. Before I married into the Dingwang Palace, I had almost never left the Xiangfu. After I married into the palace, I only went out a few times under the pretext of buying things. But the capital city is indeed prosperous. After hearing her words, Li Xia yearned for the capital city even more. But now the Dongzhu oyster is missing. We took away all the money in the account. I don't know if we will have the opportunity to go to the capital city in the future. Stand firm. The carriage was swaying on the road, and a group of people followed them a few hundred meters behind. Nan Charan yawned and said to Jun Ziqian in the carriage, Akian, why are you following like this? If you can't bear to leave her, just tell her directly, instead of being sneaky, like you are ashamed to be seen by people. Jun Ziqian was reading a book in the carriage without raising his eyelids. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Nan Charan rolled his eyes and thought to himself, I must have done bad things in my previous life, so I have to suffer by your side in this life. After 2 days of continuous travel, they finally arrived at the border of Tianshan. Shang Ruai called Ah Chung and handed him a porcelain bottle. Go and tell the Prince of Chungwang behind. These are all detoxification pills. Tell him to carry them with him at all times.
Yes.
Ah Chung came to the front of Jun Ziqian's team. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. There were so many people following them, but he didn't even notice it. Fortunately, they had no ill intentions. Otherwise, the entire Li family team would be in danger of being destroyed. But how strong is the inner strength of the prince's wife? She can even know what is happening hundreds of meters away. Nan Charan pouted and said, that black-hearted woman, since she knew we were behind, she didn't even say hello and only sent a bottle of medicine. Why? I can't be brothers with her. Jun Ziqian ignored him and said to Ah Chung, you must protect her. Go back and tell your master that if I can't protect her, I will come and take her away in person. Ah Chung was shocked. He didn't expect that the prince of the city would say such a thing in front of him. But since he knew his master, he must know the identity of the prince's wife. Since he knew who the prince's wife was, he still said such a thing, which was clearly a provocation. Please respect yourself, Prince. Whether you respect yourself or not is my business. Just tell him what you said exactly. Ah Chung looked at him, turned around, got on the horse and left. Nan Charan's eyes flickered. What was Ah Qian talking about with this guard? Just when he was about to ask, he saw Jun Ziqian close the car door directly. TSK, it seems that he doesn't want to share with me at all. Are they still brothers? Shang Ruai couldn't help laughing after listening to Ah Cheng's report. Her brother was really domineering. However, if He Jingheng heard these words, he would be so angry that he would go to the palace of Shiyu City to kill. Crown Princess, do you want to tell this to the Crown Prince? Ah Chung said with some embarrassment. Forget it. Shang Ruai smiled. If He Jingheng knew, he would be so angry that he would die. It's New Year's Day, so let's forget it. After entering the territory of Tianshan, Shang Ruai settled them in one of He Jingheng's farms. They came suddenly and had not prepared a house. The old man of the Li family felt that it was inappropriate to live in the house of his grandson's son-in-law. Shang Ruai only said that it would not be too late to move out after buying a house in the future. The old man had no choice but to stay. Sister Shang, it's getting late today. Why don't you stay here first and go back to the place of exile tomorrow? Shang Ruai shook her head. For some reason, she was very nervous today. When she arrived at the entrance of the village that should have been quiet was now brightly lit. What's going on? Ah Chung frowned and said in a low voice, replying to the Crown Princess, I sent a message to Yun Tian this afternoon, but there has been no reply so far. Such an important matter. Why didn't you say it earlier? Shang Ruai's heart sank. Something must have happened here. We have returned to Tianshan, and we thought there would be no more trouble, so. Shang Ruai jumped off the horse and whispered, I will go into the village by myself, and you take Xiao out of the town. Princess Concubine, I am your subordinate. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Shang Ruai. You do whatever I tell you to do. This is an order. She glanced at Ah Chung. I have deep internal strength, and I can protect myself even if something really happens. Now that you two are here, you will hold me back. After hearing what she said, Ah Chung had no choice but to nod and agree. Xiaorao didn't even know martial arts, and she might really delay things here. Shang Ruai gave him 2 pistols and some bullets. Take these pistols, they can save your life at a critical moment. Yes. After separating from Ah Chung and the others, Shang Ruai walked into the dark. At this moment, a sound of footsteps came, and Shang Ruai flashed into the space. Not long after, several people in strange clothes came over. Where are the people? I saw them clearly just now. You must have seen it wrong. There is no one here? Forget it. Let's go back quickly. Tonight, we must take down the He family. After the people left, Shang Ruai flashed out of the space. As she thought, something happened in the exile land. Shang Ruai installed a silencer on her pistol, hid herself in the darkness, and walked towards the He family. According to what those people said, the He family has not been breached yet. It seems that Yun Tian and others have done a good job in defense. Along the way, she encountered several waves of people in strange clothes. Those people had many colors painted on their faces, just like a tribe. She walked forward for a while and a tent appeared in her sight. Princess. A woman in a royal blue dress crossed her hands in front of her chest and saluted respectfully. Princess, the He family has a thorough defense, and it is difficult for us to attack. What about the people here? We came here and didn't catch a single prisoner. Princess, the people here are all in the He family. Humph. She snorted coldly. When did the Dingwa Palace become so kind? They are even willing to take in the people? Princess, the Prince's army has already set out, and Qingzhou is already in the pocket of our southern border. Why do you have to fight to the death with the Dingwa Palace? They are now common people. Princess Shuyang snorted coldly. So, what if I become a commoner? This princess wants to destroy the Dingwa Palace. This princess wants to avenge the previous shame. This princess personally went to ask for marriage, but what happened? He Jingheng didn't even look at this princess. Now he is guilty. Qingzhou has fallen into the hands of my father. I can torture him however I want. Isn't he lame? This princess will not only break his legs, but also dig out his eyeballs. Princess Shuyang became more and more excited as she spoke, and suddenly felt a chill on her neck. Shang Ruai was about to make a move, when suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. How could he be here? Qian Jinyan stood outside the tent in a cloak. After the guards reported, he walked in. Wasn't he in the western regions? Wasn't he the shopkeeper of Shan Heng's casino? How could he be involved with the people from southern Xinjiang? The most important thing is that the purpose of these people from southern Xinjiang is to kill the He family. The voices in the tent were very low. She wanted to go closer to listen, but there were too many guards near the tent, so she couldn't get closer. However, since these people were targeting the He family, she would have some fun with them. Shang Ruai sneered and turned away. Inside the tent, Qian Jinyan bowed and said, "Princess Shuyang, how have you been?" "Shopkeeper Qian." Princess Shuyang smiled and said, "Shopkeeper Qian, what brings you here today?" "I heard that princess wants to kill the He family, so I came here to help." "Shopkeeper Qian is very powerful. Even my father praises you highly. If it weren't for the help of Shopkeeper Qian, we wouldn't have been able to capture Qingzhou City so smoothly. When we return to southern Xinjiang, I will definitely mention Shopkeeper Qian to my father, and then I will let him reward you well." "It's just a piece of cake, princess. Thank you for your compliment." He took out a blueprint. "Here are the blueprints of the He family." Princess Shuyang's eyes lit up when she heard this. How did Shopkeeper Qian get it? Princess Shuyang looked at the extremely complicated courtyard and narrowed her eyes. "I didn't expect that the He family is such a gathering of talented people. It's just a small house, but so many formations are used. The mountain man has his own clever plan." Shopkeeper Qian stroked his beard and said with a smile, "With this blueprint, I believe the princess will be invincible and will quickly defeat the He family."
Ha ha ha.
Princess Shuyang laughed. "Thanks for the good words, Shopkeeper Qian." A smug smile appeared on Princess Shuyang's face, as if the He family was already in her pocket. "However, I have a favor to ask for." Qian Jinyan whispered. "Please agree, princess. Tell me what you want. If we defeat the He family, please hand over the He family to me." Princess Shuyang hesitated for a moment. "Can you tell me the reason?" "The Dinghua Palace exterminated my entire family. Qian has long vowed that he will kill his enemies in his lifetime." He gritted his teeth, his eyes full of hatred. "Please agree, princess. Except He Jingheng, I can hand over the rest to you, but not him. She must torture him personally, and it would be best if she could cut him into a human pig to relieve her hatred." The two agreed to gather troops to attack the He family. At this time, everyone in the He family was exhausted. "Yunwei, Yunwei." A secret guard ran in. "Oh no, the brothers can't hold on any longer. Dong Qiang is going to fail." Yuntian covered the wound on his shoulder, and beads of sweat kept rolling down his forehead. "Hold on a little longer. The Crown Prince's consort will be back." "Yunwei, won't it be dangerous for the Crown Prince's consort to come back?" A secret guard whispered. "Now so many of us are almost unable to hold on. What can the Crown Prince's consort do alone?" Yuntian couldn't help but feel disappointed when he heard this. "Yes, the people from Miaojiang are coming in a fierce force, and so many of them can't hold on. The Crown Prince's consort is just a woman. What can she do? It's better not to come back at this time. If something happens to the Crown Prince's consort, how should he explain to the prince?" At this moment, a white shadow appeared in his sight. This is the Crown Prince's consort's white tiger. The Crown Prince's consort is back. The Crown Prince's consort is back. His hands couldn't stop shaking. The sudden appearance of the white tiger startled the He family members for a moment. Just as they were about to pick up their weapons, they saw a yellow figure rushing out of the yard. Xiao Huang crawled in front of Xiao Bai, looking extremely respectful. Xiao Bai glanced at it and pushed it aside with his claws. Xiao Huang's mood was visibly depressed. The eldest brother pushed him away. The eldest brother felt that he had not done a good enough job and did not drive those stinky things out. Xiao Huang looked at the door and couldn't help but flash a fierce light in his eyes. He wanted to rush out directly and tear those southern Xinjiang to pieces. Xiao Bai walked up to Yun Tian, and Yun Tian saw that he was carrying 2 large packages on his back. Yun Tian carefully unloaded the packages, fearing that he would do something to anger the king of the forest. He opened the packages and saw that one of the packages was full of wound medicine. Yun Tian was overjoyed. The prince's wife was really as good as a god. There was no worry about food and drink in the mansion, but there was no wound medicine. The pills and powders she left before leaving had all been consumed. He quickly opened another package. When he saw what was inside, he almost cried with joy. Firearms. A bag full of firearms. Yunwei, this is the hand that can explode. Grenade. Yun Tian said with a smile. The crown prince's consort asked Xiao Bai to bring back the grenade. As expected of the crown prince's consort, Yun Tian seemed to have a backbone and said to the secret guards in front of him, "Brothers, with these, we must repel those from southern Xinjiang and protect our masters to the death." Now the He family was still surrounded by southern Xinjiang soldiers. The grenades left by Shang Ruai had been used up long ago. It was because of those grenades that the southern Xinjiang soldiers were delayed for so long. Southern Xinjiang was isolated from the news and had never seen such powerful firearms. For a while, they thought it was a punishment from the gods, and no one dared to step forward. Yun Tian held a grenade in his hand and shouted loudly, "Brothers, it's time for us to fight back." He pulled the ring and threw the grenade straight out. Seeing this, the other secret guards also threw the grenades in their hands. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the He family's door turned into a sea of fire. How could those southern Xinjiang people predict today's scene? For a while, people and horses were thrown to the ground, and blood flowed like a river. Princess Shuyang and Qian Jinyan led the team to the He family. The distance from their tent to the He family was not far, and it only took a cup of tea to walk. They had just left the tent and had not walked a few steps when suddenly there was a loud noise. After a loud boom, flames rose from the sky, and all the tents were burned down. "What's going on?" Princess Shuyang asked in shock. "What happened?" As soon as the voice fell, 2 black objects fell in front of them. Boom, boom. Ah! Screams rang out one after another. The sky-high flames exploded among them, and broken limbs flew all over the sky. Princess Shuyang was very scared. Where had they seen such a scene? Qian Jinyan was also shocked. What kind of witchcraft was this? "Princess! Protect the princess!" The uninjured southern Xinjiang soldiers protected her in the middle, and their eyes could not help but look around. Where were the people? Who attacked them? "You bold little thief! Do you know who I am? How dare you attack me?" Although Princess Shuyang's voice was loud, it was trembling. "Who are you, and what has it got to do with me?" Shang Ruai's voice rang in everyone's ears like a ring. Who are you?" Qian Jinyan narrowed his eyes slightly. Why did this voice sound familiar? At this moment, a figure appeared in front of everyone like a ghost. Princess Shuyang was startled. Where did this person come from? Could it be a ghost? She stepped back and forth. Shang Ruai turned around, and her stunning face became even more stunning under the light of the sky. Woman. It was actually a woman. Qian Jinyan's pupils shrank slightly. Shang Ruai. He Jingheng's prince consort. The princess of southern Xinjiang. Shang Ruai opened her cherry lips slightly. You dare to come to the exile land to make trouble. You are really looking for death. Who are you? Princess, he is He Jingheng's wife. Qian Jinyan said in a low voice with a robe on his body. What? He Jingheng's prince consort? The fear in Princess Shuyang's eyes gradually faded, and as she looked at the stunning face of the woman in front of her, her heart burned with jealousy. You are also a member of the He family. She took a step forward and raised her chin slightly. He Jingheng's prince consort. She gritted her teeth. Since you have come to my door, I will capture you first, scratch your face, and then reward you to our soldiers in southern Xinjiang. A trace of coldness flashed across Shang Ruai's eyes. I said, why does He Jingheng look down on you? What did you say? Princess Shuyang raised her voice. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't you look at yourself? You are ugly, your behavior is, your words are rude, like a shrew in the market. Let alone He Jingheng. Ask yourself which man in this world is willing to marry you? You. She pointed at Shang Ruai with trembling hands and said, "Come here. Capture this for me. No matter who can catch her, this princess will reward her to you, plus a reward of 1,000 taels of silver." As the saying goes, a big reward will always bring out brave men. With such a great temptation, the soldiers were rubbing their fists, ready to pounce on Shang Ruai. Idiot. Qian Jinyan couldn't help but curse in a low voice. She was really a brainless woman. Shang Ruai had knocked them all over the place with her own strength, and now she didn't run away, but was thinking of sending people to catch her. Shang Ruai sneered. With this brain, it's really stupid. She waved her hand, and several grenades flew away. The huge noise shook the entire exile land, as if there was an earthquake. For a moment, there were wailing everywhere, and flames shot into the sky. Everyone in the He family was excited when they heard the noise. The crown princess must have fought with the people from southern Xinjiang. Yun Tian whispered, "The crown princess only brought one guard, Ah Cheng, who is outnumbered and may not be able to defeat them." He looked at Lin Mu and Lu Qin. "Two brothers, help me guard the He family, and I will take some secret guards to help the crown princess." When the people from southern Xinjiang attacked, Lu Qin and Lin Mu had a bad feeling and went down the mountain to support. "We are more familiar with this area, so why don't we go to support the master, and you stay to guard the He family?" After all, they were snow bandits, and they may not be able to convince the crowd here. Yun Tian thought of this and nodded, and brought them a few grenades in case of emergency. "I'll go too." He Yuni ran over. "Sister-in-law, come back, I'll go pick her up." "Miss, you don't know martial arts, so you'd better stay here. It's too chaotic outside. If something happens to you, how can I explain to the prince and the prince's wife? I have Xiao Huang to protect me. Nothing will happen." She pulled out a dagger from her sleeve. "If I meet someone from southern Xinjiang, I will use this dagger that my sister-in-law gave me to kill the enemy." Yun Tian's lips twitched. If he really met an enemy, she would be the biggest hindrance. "Miss, I beg you, just wait in the mansion. Don't go out and make trouble." The light in Hiyuni's eyes dimmed, and she turned and walked into the room. "Useless. I am still too useless. My sister-in-law said she would teach me martial arts before, but I felt tired. I fished for 3 days and dried the net for 2 days, and I didn't learn anything. Now, when it comes to using martial arts, I can only hold everyone back." Feeling his master's depressed mood, Xiao Huang lay beside her and kept rubbing his head against her calf. When the firelight dissipated, the guards who protected Princess Xuyang had already died or were injured, and those who were not injured were also scared out of their wits. Qian Jinyan was unable to dodge, and his arm was injured by the explosion. At this time, his robe was covered with blood, and he looked at her vigilantly. Shang Ruai whispered, "Shopkeeper Qian, you and I have no grudges in the past or in the present. Why do you help the people of southern Xinjiang to harm me?" "Humph, you and I have no grudges, but the family you married has a grudge against me, an irreconcilable grudge." He covered his wound with a slight twist on his face. Seeing the two of them talking, Princess Xuyang wanted to sneak away, but before she took 2 steps, Shang Ruai took out a pistol and pulled the trigger casually, and the bullet instantly pierced her calf. "Ah!" A sharp voice sounded, and Princess Xuyang howled. You, how dare you plot against me?" "Plotting?" Shang Ruai sneered. "Which eye of yours saw me plotting against you?" She looked at the Nanjiang soldier lying on the ground and sneered. "Isn't this a blatant way for me to deal with you? You." The pain in her leg made her sweat coldly. "How dare you hurt me? When my father comes, he will definitely cut you into pieces." "Really?" Shang Ruai came close to her and looked at the bleeding wound on her leg. She smiled and said, "Tell me, should I use all the moves you just prepared to deal with me on you?" When Princess Xuyang heard this, she was completely stunned. She held the cloak tightly. At this time, her eyes finally showed fear. Qian Jinyan knew that Princess Xuyang's move was a failure. Shang Ruoi's eyes were cold, and the dark muzzle of the gun was pointed at him. Manager Qian, it seems that there are many things that need to be discussed. At this moment, a flash of light passed by, and a man in white with a mask appeared beside Qian Jinyan. He didn't say a word, but just glanced at her. Shang Ruai was shocked, and the trigger in her hand was delayed. The next moment, the man in white took Qian Jinyan away. At this time, only Princess Shuyang was left in the huge camp. She didn't expect that she would be forced to this point by a woman with so many soldiers. Seeing Shang Ruai approaching her step by step, Princess Shuyang dragged her injured leg and kept moving back, as if she had seen Shura, with fear on her face. Shang Ruai couldn't help laughing when she saw her like this. "What are you afraid of? Weren't you very majestic just now? Didn't you want to skin He Jingheng alive and pull out his tendons? You heard it all. It's just that a man doesn't want to marry you, but you want to kill his entire family. You are really crazy. What do you know?" She sneered. "There is no man I can't get." Shang Ruai looked at her and said sarcastically, "It's just relying on the love insect. If there is no insect, which man in this world will look at you?" She tightened the insect in her hand and was horrified. How did she know? "Don't hide it, it's just a bug. Do you really think no one can solve it?" The silver needle in her hand flew out suddenly, piercing through the back of her hand with a powerful force and shooting into her palm, piercing the insect in her palm.
Ah!
Princess Shuyang screamed, and the insect in her palm struggled a few times and died completely. "Poisonous insect. My poisonous insect." Before she finished speaking, a trace of blood flowed out of her mouth. The death of the poisonous insect caused damage to her body. "I will kill you. I will kill you." Shang Ruai ignored her shouting. At this moment, a group of people gradually appeared in front of them. Lin Mu and Lu Qin came panting. They thought they were coming to support, but they were here to clean up the battlefield.
"Master."
Shang Ruai nodded. "Tie up that woman and take her back." "Yes." Lu Qin and Lin Mu looked at the broken limbs and arms on the ground and swallowed their saliva. Is this something that one person can do? There are so many of them, and they have tried their best to barely defend the He family, but now they are wiped out by the master himself? Shu Yu struggled non-stop, but Lin Mu was not a patient man, and with a single of his hand, he knocked her unconscious. "You are so ugly and noisy." Yuntian stood on the observation tower of the parade ground, and from a distance he saw Shang Ruai, who was wearing a black fox cloak, walking towards them, surrounded by Lin Mu and others. "Crown Princess. The Crown Princess is back.
Quick.
Open the door." Yuntian hurried out to greet her. "Crown Princess." Shang Ruai smiled. "Thank you for your hard work." "It's not hard." Yuntian's eyes fell on Princess Shuyang, who was being carried behind her. "This is the daughter of some prince from southern Xinjiang, the mastermind behind the siege of the He family." Shang Ruai whispered, "Watch carefully. Don't let her die."
"Yes."
"Sister-in-law." He Yuni heard the voice and hurried out. "Sister-in-law, how are you? Are you hurt?" "Nothing." Shang Ruai smiled. "Where are my grandmother and mother?" Before Hyuni could answer, she saw a secret guard falling from the platform with a black feather arrow stuck in his chest. "Princess, it's bad. The large army of King Qi of southern Xinjiang is coming." Shang Ruai's eyes were cold, and she climbed onto the platform in a flash. Sure enough, she saw smoke and dust billowing in the distance, and a force of at least 10,000 people was rushing towards them. "Crown Princess, what should we do?" Yuntian said anxiously. "Why don't you take the old princess and the others away first, and I will fight them?" Shang Ruai shook her head. "It's too late. The entire He mansion has been surrounded." Sure enough, a secret guard came. "Crown Princess, it's not good. There are soldiers from southern Xinjiang on all sides." "Yuntian, take the old princess and the others to hide in the secret passage." Shang Ruai whispered. "Go quickly." When building the He mansion, Shang Ruai ordered people to build a secret passage in case of emergency. "Princess consort, I will stay here while you take the masters to hide." Shang Ruai shook her head. "My martial arts are better than yours." They can't do anything to me.
But,
At this moment, Xiaobai became a little agitated. Shang Ruai knew it was too late and said angrily, "Are you going to disobey orders?" Just as Yun Tian was hesitating, the old princess came over with a cane in her hand. "Ruai, good girl, Grandma will stay here while you take everyone away." Looking at the old princess's expression, Shang Ruai was stunned for a moment and suddenly thought of the queen. The queen is the saint of southern Xinjiang.
could it be?
Could it be that the invasion of southern Xinjiang this time is related to what happened to the queen that year? Thinking of this, Shang Ruai's expression became serious. Seeing that no one was willing to enter the secret passage for refuge, she made up her mind, took out the jade ring and said coldly, "All soldiers, listen to my orders." Hiss. When everyone saw what she had in her hand, they all knelt on the ground. "We will listen to your orders, Crown Princess. Take everyone in the palace to take shelter in the secret room. In the future, the people who will seek refuge in the palace will be placed in the backyard. Half of the guards will be assigned to protect the people." Shang Ruai's words were mixed with internal force, and everyone in the palace could hear them clearly. The people couldn't help but shed tears. Crown Princess is so righteous. Crown Princess is so righteous. At this time, Zhang Hu came over with the help of his men. "Crown Princess, you go first. I, your subordinates, will stay here with my brothers." He was an official in the place of exile, and this was his duty. "Sir Zhang, please take shelter in the backyard with the people. I will take care of this here." Seeing the ring in her hand, Zhang Hu had to obey. Everyone hid according to her arrangement. Shang Ruai came to her yard and moved a brick from the bed. There was a button inside. She pressed it lightly, and the colorless and odorless powder slowly seeped into the secret room. Everyone hiding in the palace fainted. Shang Ruai pressed the wall a few more times to open it. The wall of the room suddenly opened, and there was a secret passage leading directly to the secret room. She walked in slowly and saw that everyone fainted. She waved her hand and put them into the space. No matter how hidden this secret passage is, it is not as safe as the space. What's more, there are still spies in the palace. Otherwise, how did Qian Jinyan get the drawings in the palace? She walked out of the room and waved her hand. Dozens of tigers appeared in the yard. "Today, I will take you to have a good fight." She finished speaking, her aura changed dramatically, and the soldier king of her previous life slowly woke up. Xiaobai jumped onto the platform and let out a low roar, and dozens of tigers scattered around. Shang Ruai stood on the platform, took out several boxes of ammunition from the space, and took out some fruits to fill her stomach. At this time, the lights around the house were bright, and the king of Qi took the lead and shouted loudly, "Return my daughter quickly. Otherwise, I will flatten your He family today." The house was quiet, without even an echo. A guard walked up to the king of Qi. "Your Highness, there seems to be no one in this He mansion." "How is it possible?" he said coldly. "In addition to the people from the Dingwa Palace, there are also the people who used to live here in the He mansion.
There are so many of them.
If they leave, how can our people not find them? So, they must be hiding in this house. Your Highness, I will go and check it out first." A young general rode his horse towards the gate of the mansion. Shang Ruai looked at the young general who was already within range through the scope, curled her lips slightly, pulled the trigger with her finger, and the bullet passed through the silencer and flew straight to the young general's forehead. The man who was about to draw his sword, his evil smile froze on his face before he could expand it. His eyes widened and his body slowly collapsed. What's going on? As soon as the king of Qi finished speaking, a soldier behind him ran over. He turned the man who was holding the ground over, and what he saw was the shocking blood hole. "Your Highness, the young general, he is dead."
What?
Before the king of Qi could be shocked, he saw the soldier who was just talking there, fell down like the man just now. Shang Ruai looked at their terrified faces and smiled coldly. "What's going on? What happened to them?" The king of Qi waved his hand and said, "You two, go and check it out."
Yes.
The two soldiers walked and looked around until they came to the two bodies. Two people, the blood hole in the middle of his forehead, and his eyes widened. He couldn't help but scream, "Prince! Prince!" They are both dead. They rolled and crawled back, and just when they thought they had escaped, two bullets hit the back of their heads. They fell to the ground in disbelief. Seeing this scene, the king of Qi was shocked. Why is this place so weird? Could it be that there are ghosts and gods? The people in southern Xinjiang highly respect ghosts and wizards, so they are very afraid of this scene. "Your Highness, this is a punishment from heaven. It must be a punishment from heaven," the deputy general said in horror. "Your Highness, let's retreat. Let's retreat." The king of Qi looked at the closed door with red eyes and threw the deputy general away. "Why retreat? My daughter is still in the hands of the He family." He looked up at the sky and snorted coldly. "I don't believe that any ghosts and gods can stop me." He drew out his sword and pointed to the sky. "Charge! Kill the gods if they stand in my way, and kill the ghosts if they stand in my way." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed to the He family. Shang Ruai saw this, snorted coldly, took out a few grenades, pulled out the pull rings, and threw them out directly.
Boom, 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 boom.
One after another explosion sounded. The sky was full of flames, lighting up the entire night. The soldiers from southern Xinjiang who wanted to move forward were frightened and retreated violently. The huge noise frightened the horses, and they ran away without listening to the command. Many soldiers were trampled under the horses' hooves. "Your Highness, let's retreat. This place is too weird." The king of Qi was also a little shaken, but when he thought of Xu Yang still in their hands, he became very anxious. No, Xu Yang must be rescued. The saint's order is still on her. The saint's things? The deputy general was shocked when he heard this. The position of the saint of their southern Xinjiang has been vacant for many years because the saint's order has disappeared. Whoever can get the saint's order will be the new saint. The status of the saint in southern Xinjiang is extraordinary, and her power is only second to the emperor. All the families in southern Xinjiang are eager for their daughters to become saints, which is the glory of the entire family. The most important thing is that according to legend, there is a great secret hidden in the saint's order, but no one has been able to it so far. Now that the saint's order is in the hands of the He family, if it can never be found again, it will definitely be a great to southern Xinjiang. "Your Highness, I will see if I can take advantage of the chaos to enter the He mansion." He led a team of men to the back door, which was connected to the backyard. It was quiet here, without any sound. He climbed up the wall and saw that the backyard was pitch black. He sneered. The guards of the He mansion were too lax. If they entered from the back door, they would have taken down the He mansion. He originally wanted to send someone to notify the king of Qi, but when he thought of the saint maiden order that the prince mentioned, he had a sister. If his sister could become a saint, their Qin family would completely turn over and become a big family in southern Xinjiang. A trace of greed flashed across Qin Yu's eyes, and he said to the soldiers behind him, "Step lightly and notify me immediately when you find the princess." "Yes, Deputy General Qin." They jumped down one after another, looking at the quiet backyard, each complacent, and no one noticed that behind them, several pairs of bright eyes were staring at them. "Deputy General Qin, why do I feel so eerie here?" "Yes, it seems like something is staring at us from behind." "Coward! Where is that thing? If you don't believe me, turn around." He turned around, and before he finished saying the first word, he was stunned. "Deputy General, Deputy Chen." They looked back along Qin Yu's gaze and saw 4 tigers not far behind them. At this time, they deeply understood what it meant to be staring at someone with a covetous eye. The 4 tigers were snow white with black stripes on their bodies, and their fur shone in the moonlight. At this moment, the white tiger standing in the front showed its sharp teeth. They wanted to turn around and run away. "Old tiger. How could there be a tiger here?" "Help! Deputy General Chen, help!" The white tigers rolled their eyes at the trembling appearance of these humans. "Look at your appearance of not having seen the world, and then look at our master." Chen Yu's hands were shaking, and he subconsciously drew out the big knife from his waist, panting and saying, "What are you waiting for? Why don't you draw your sword quickly?" Right. They just reacted and hurriedly drew out their swords, pointing the sharp tips of the swords at the white tigers. The white tigers looked at the southern Xinjiang soldiers in front of them with contempt. Stupid humans dared to hold a few broken swords in front of them. The white tiger standing in the first place roared and rushed out like an arrow. The two soldiers were slapped away by the white tiger before they could react. The two men fell heavily to the ground, and the place where the tiger's claws hit their chests collapsed deeply. The two men fell to the ground and were already silent. Hiss! Everyone gasped. How could this white tiger be so powerful? The other white tigers also jumped over directly. Their huge bodies were extremely flexible, and they easily beat all of them to death. Chun Yu never thought that he would end up like this until his death. The saint's dream was shattered before she could even realize it. At this time, all the tigers were lying in ambush around the courtyard wall, waiting for someone to break in and then bite them to death. Seeing that Chun Yu had not made any movement, the king of Qi guessed that they must have met with an accident. A series of explosions sounded in his ears, and the originally neat team had become a mess. What kind of amazing thing is this Dinghua Palace using? He said angrily. No matter what, rush in for me. Whoever can rush in first, I will make him a general. General. Everyone was excited when they heard this. General. This is an official position that ordinary soldiers can't get even if they risk their lives. As soon as the king of Qi finished speaking, they rushed to the gate desperately. Shang Rui's firepower was strong enough, but it couldn't withstand the large number of people. Soon, several hooks were hooked on the wall. Seeing this, the king of Qi was delighted. Those soldiers climbed up desperately, and the title of general was getting closer and closer to them. Finally, one person climbed over the courtyard wall. Before he could be happy, he saw the white tiger guarding under the courtyard wall. He actually saw a trace of mockery on the tiger's face. White tiger. He shouted and wanted to climb back, but in his anxiety, he stepped on empty air and fell down. Before his body landed on the ground, he was slapped to the ground by the white tiger and died. Several soldiers went down one after another, but there was no news. The king of Qi frowned. At this moment, he heard a soldier shouting loudly, "Tiger! Tiger!" As soon as he finished speaking, a huge white claw appeared in front of everyone. The people who were originally standing on the courtyard wall were taken down directly. After hearing a scream, they returned to peace again. Tiger? In this courtyard? A soldier trembled and said, "Look, see? That claw, how can it be a tiger's claw? It's clearly a beast. I have seen tiger claws before, but they are only half the size." He was not talking nonsense. Many people present had seen tigers. The tiger claws of ordinary tigers are indeed half the size of white tigers, but how can a tiger that grows up in space be the same as one that grows in the wild? Whether it is size, attack power, or intelligence, it is not comparable to ordinary tigers. Could it be that the tiger has become a spirit? A man said, "It must be. It must be that the tiger has become a spirit." Such weird and supernatural words are particularly easy to confuse people's minds at this time. For a moment, no one dared to come forward. What nonsense! The king of Qi raised his sword and cut the neck of the man who just said that the tiger had become a spirit. What ghosts and gods are there? It's just a tiger. How can you call it a monster? At this moment, a fire flickered not far away, and a large group of people were rushing towards them. The king of Qi looked at the leading man, who was his most capable subordinate Qin Shao. He snorted coldly, looked at the He family, and said in a deep voice, "Support has arrived. Today I must open the door of the He family." He pulled out a black feather arrow, drew the bow and shot the arrow, and the feather arrow went towards the door of the He family. At this moment, the door opened from the inside, and a dagger flew out, breaking the feather arrow into 2 pieces. Before they could react, the door closed again with a. The king of Qi's face turned pale, and he finally reacted that the people guarding this house had been teasing them from beginning to end. "How unreasonable," he said angrily. "No matter who is in this house, I will capture her today and grind her to dust." As soon as he finished speaking, He flew forward and flew straight into the high wall. He just stood still and was stunned by the scene in front of him. Tigers, tigers all over the yard. And at the end, a woman in green wearing a black fox cloak, looking at her with no warmth in her eyes.
Who are you? Heh.
Shang Ruai sneered. King Qi, do you want to check your brain? You have been shouting and killing outside for so long, and now you don't even know who you are fighting. Who are you to the He family? He held the big knife in front of him and looked at her warily. Who are you? Shang Ruai, He Jingheng's wife. She gathered the cloak on her body and stood up. The next scene made King Qi's eyes fall to the ground. Wherever she went, tigers gave way. The tigers that were once feared by everyone became as obedient as cats beside her. Shang Ruai put her hand on Xiaobai's head and smiled. Why did the king of Qi come to my house so late at night? The king of Qi looked around. In this huge yard, except for her, there was not a single person to be seen. Could it be that she was the one who caused all the fire just now? Where is He Jingheng?
Get him out.
Shang Ruai sneered. You and your army can't even beat me, yet you still want to fight He Jingheng. Your Highness, don't you think too highly of yourself? Nonsense. His hand holding the knife couldn't help but tremble. It's because you took advantage of the situation and used those flaming things that made it difficult for us to break in. Really? Shang Ruai sneered. I'm a weak woman, but your Highness came with tens of thousands of soldiers and horses to attack me. If I didn't use some tricks, I would have become your Highness's prisoner long ago. Weak woman. She still has the nerve to say that she is a weak woman? Just look at the soldiers from southern Xinjiang who were blown to death and beaten to death by tigers outside to guess how cruel her methods are. Is my daughter in your hands? The princess daughter? Shang Ruai sneered. I don't know your daughter. Here, except for my own people, there are prisoners of war. As for your daughter that the prince mentioned, I have never seen her. How is it possible? That person said that Shuyang was taken away by you. The king of Qi said in a deep voice, Give my daughter back to me. Did you hear it from someone? Who is that person?
Of course it was Qi.
The words came to his lips, but the king of Qi took them back, stared at Shang Ruai and said, Just tell me whether you took my daughter away. No, I don't know the prince's daughter, but there really is a woman among the captives. What was her name? Shuyang. That's right. Shang Ruai smiled. She claimed to be a princess, but I think she was just trying to deceive me. After all, which good family would let their daughter go out and kill innocent people? How is she different from a beast? Your Majesty did not see the ferocious look of that woman. I thought it was someone's mad dog that came out. It was so scary. Why is your Highness so angry? Shang Ruai deliberately said, I'm talking about someone else's daughter, not your daughter, your Highness. What are you doing? The king of Qi was not a fool and knew what she meant. It was clearly Shuyang. At this moment, there was a noise at the gate of the He family. It turned out that the soldiers from southern Xinjiang were knocking on the door. Humph, my troops are gathering here. It won't be long before your He family will be trampled to pieces by my cavalry. Really? At this time, the gate was shaking more and more violently, and it was about to be knocked down. If you are sensible, open the door immediately and hand over my daughter. Otherwise, I will not let you and the people you want to protect go today. Suddenly, he thought of something, sneered and said, I know, is He Jingheng's grandson lame, so he has no face to see people? Your He family is really empty-handed, and you actually sent a woman to fight against this general. Shang Ruai narrowed her eyes full of contempt. I don't know where your Highness the Prince of Qi gets his sense of superiority from. A waste who can't even beat a woman actually has the nerve to speak nonsense here. What did you say? I say, your Highness the Prince of Qi, you are a waste who can't even beat a woman. She sneered. Didn't the prince and your soldiers get stopped outside the door by a little girl like me? How dare you? The Prince of Qi said angrily with a dark face, I will kill you. You are not qualified to kill me. After saying this, she raised her hand and pointed the dark muzzle of the gun at his forehead. The faces of the soldiers with bloody holes on their foreheads flashed before King Qi's eyes. It was her. She did it. His face suddenly changed. He thought that He Jingheng had set up some kind of mechanism around the house, but he didn't expect it to be the hidden weapon in her hand. What are you going to do? He had never seen such a hidden weapon before, but he had seen the power of the hidden weapon with his own eyes. Shang Ruai pulled the trigger. The bullet passed through the barrel of the gun. Sparks spurted out at the muzzle, and before he could react, the bullet pierced his calf. TSK. What a coincidence. The prince and Princess Shuyang were shot in exactly the same place.
What?
Shuyang? Where is Shuyang? The king of Qi endured the severe pain from his calf and said angrily, Where's Shuyang? As long as the prince tells me who told you that I took Shuyang away, I can consider telling the prince the whereabouts of Princess Shuyang. If the prince doesn't tell me, I can't guarantee where Princess Shuyang is and what she will encounter. How dare you threaten me? At this moment, there was and the gate of the He family fell down. The soldiers from southern Xinjiang were about to rush in, but they were frightened by the tigers in the yard and nailed to the spot. Tigers in the yard, at least dozens of them. Xiaobai stood in the front and saw its tiger eyes fall on the soldiers outside the door. Those soldiers from southern Xinjiang actually saw the momentum of looking down on the world in a tiger. This. The next moment, dozens of tigers looked at them. Those soldiers wanted to lift up the gate and couldn't help cursing inwardly. Why are you so rude? Why do you have nothing to do and go to knock on other people's gates? Now, the prince was not rescued, and these living fathers were knocked out. They set their eyes on the king of Qi, who was surrounded by tigers, and couldn't help but admire him secretly. He is worthy of being a prince. He can face so many beasts without changing his face. How could they know the mood of the king of Qi at this time? How could he not change his face? In fact, the wound was bleeding profusely, causing his face to turn pale. If he could choose again, he would definitely not fall into this tiger group alone. Xiaobai led the tiger group forward step by step. The speed of those soldiers retreating was much faster than the speed of Xiaobai and the others. In the blink of an eye, they retreated more than 100 meters. Shield! Archer! Shang Ruai heard the voice outside. Her eyes were cold. She picked up the rifle on the right and shot at the shield that had just been raised. With just this one shot, the shield was directly pierced, and the person behind the shield was not spared. Seeing this, everyone was almost scared to death. What was the hidden weapon just now? This is too terrifying. The king of Qi looked at Shang Ruai in horror. His eyes fell on the gun beside her. Who are you? The king of Qi doesn't seem to have a good memory. I remember that I have just introduced myself. Shang Ruai picked up a few more grenades and said with a smile, The people under the prince don't seem to be very sensible. They actually want to hurt my pet. Upon hearing this, the king of Qi waved his hand to stop her. Stop. He saw the black firearm in her hand. It was this thing that could throw people off the ground just now. The soldiers of southern Xinjiang did not hear his voice outside. They only saw that more than 20 archers were ready and had no intention of stopping. The words of the prince don't seem to be very useful. After saying this, she threw the grenade in her hand with force, and it landed right in front of the archers. After a few deafening noises, 2 shields were lifted into the sky by the power of the bomb and fell directly on the back of the king of Qi. The shield was very heavy, and the 2 shields directly knocked the king of Qi to the ground. Shang Ruai saw this and sneered. Your Highness, luck doesn't seem to be very good. There was a trace of blood on the lips of the king of Qi, and he looked at Shang Ruai coldly. You promise that as long as I tell you who informed me, you will release Shuyang, right?
No.
Shang Ruai waved her hand. I just told you the whereabouts of Princess Shuyang, but I didn't say I would release her. Your Highness, do you want to tell me? I don't have so much patience. Shang Ruai said coldly. My pets are hungry. If your Highness drags it on, I will let them eat meat and taste whether human flesh is delicious or not. It was Chiyu Villa. He said in a deep voice. It was the people of Chiyu Villa in the western regions who told me.
Chiyu Villa.
It was them again. What did the Dingwa Palace do to Chiyu Villa? How could there be such a deep hatred? Well, Now that I have told you what you want to know, tell me where Shuyang is? Shang Ruoi heard this, pointed to the courtyard behind her, and said lightly, Princess Shuyang is in the He family's house.
Puff.
The king of Qi could no longer hold back, and a mouthful of blood spurted out, and he pointed at Shang Ruoi with trembling hands. You. How dare you play tricks on me? Playing? Not really. Shang Ruoi smiled. I'm admitting that the princess is in our house, right? We haven't hidden her anywhere else. The soldiers stood in the distance, watching the king of Qi blood because of her anger, and looked at Shang Ruoi as if they were looking at a monster. The king of Qi was notoriously difficult to mess with in southern Xinjiang, but he was unexpectedly made to blood by a woman's words. But that woman was indeed not an ordinary person. Just look at the tigers she raised. Which normal person would raise a tiger? Which normal person would raise a group of tigers? It seems that the brothers who just jumped into the yard were eaten by the tiger. In fact, the tigers raised by Shang Ruoi have long stopped eating people. Ordinary people have a foul smell, which is not as sweet as the fruits in the space. Those soldiers who fell were beaten to death by the tiger's claws. The prince is too impatient and so angry. How could he not be angry? He led so many soldiers to the north and was invincible all the way. He was invincible and unstoppable. Even attacking a city was not as difficult as attacking a small He family. Let Shuyang go, and I will exchange myself for him. Shang Ruoi raised her eyebrows and sneered. Your Majesty, are you confused? Now, in addition to Princess Shuyang, you are also my prisoner. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaobai jumped in front of him. The king of Qi's eyes were fierce, and he waved the knife in his hand to chop at Xiaobai. At this time, he was seriously injured, and his strength and speed were greatly reduced. How could he be Xiaobai's opponent? Xiaobai dodged nimbly, stretched out his tiger claws, and slapped him the back of his hand. The king of Qi felt that the forehead bones in his hand were about to be broken by him. I didn't expect a white tiger to have such powerful strength. His eyes were heavy. This Dingwa palace was far from what it looked like on the surface. The steel knife in his hand fell to the ground. Xiaobai swept it with his big tail, and the king of Qi fell directly to the ground. Just as he was about to get up, a huge tiger claw pressed on his chest. Cough, cough, cough. The huge force on the tiger claw made him cough uncontrollably. Does the prince still want to continue struggling? You, cough, 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 cough. The soldiers outside the door saw this scene and couldn't help but be extremely anxious. Now that the prince is captured, what should they do? At this moment, a sound of iron cavalry came, and the corners of the king of Qi's lips curled up with a sneer. My king's master is here. In front of the king's master, it's useless to recognize that you have 1,000 skills and 10,000 abilities. At this moment, a flying arrow shot toward Shang Ruoi. Shang Ruoi looked at the feather arrow without even raising her eyelids. She saw a tiger jumped up and slapped the feather arrow with one claw. The arrow, which was originally still aggressive, instantly broke into 2 pieces and fell to the ground. This tiger has become a spirit. It really has become a spirit. How dare you, you unruly commoner? How dare you detain the prince and princess? Why don't you surrender quickly? Release the prince and princess, and I may spare your life. Shang Ruoi couldn't help but sneer when she heard it. You are a southern Xinjiang native, and you have invaded my Tianshan territory, and you have the nerve to call me an unruly commoner. Are you mentally ill or mentally ill? How dare you? How dare you insult this general? He was angry and shouted loudly, You are stubborn and should be killed. Shang Ruoi scratched her ears. Noisy. She looked at the king of Qi and said, Your Majesty, I didn't expect that the king's teacher you mentioned would be of such a level. I am really disappointed. She looked outside the door and whispered, Listen carefully, people outside the door, your prince and princess are in my hands now. If you dare to act rashly and make me unhappy, I will let my tigers eat your prince and princess alive one by one. You dare. See if I dare. She looked at the king of Qi, with the corners of her lips slightly raised. The king of Qi felt bad. What are you going to do? Your Highness, your men don't believe that I am such a cruel person. I want to prove myself once, okay? What do you mean by proving myself? Doesn't the implication mean that he wants the broken tiger she raised to bite him? Wang Zheng, get away from me right now. He would rather be stabbed a few times than be bitten by a tiger. When Wang Zheng heard what the king of Qi said, he had to wave his hand and let his soldiers step back. His eyes fell on the tigers in the yard, and he couldn't help but have a headache. Did they poke the tiger's den? Tens of thousands of troops were stationed in this village. The king of Qi was by Shang Ruai and locked in another secret room. She also locked Xu Yang in. The king of Qi saw that the injury on his daughter's leg was indeed the same as his own. He was even more afraid of Shang Ruai. Where did Emperor Tianshun find such a daughter-in-law for He Jingheng? She was even more terrifying than that Yiksha. Shang Ruai came to the secret room in the house and released the old princess and others. At this time, they were not awake. She took out a porcelain bottle. As the smell in the porcelain bottle evaporated, the people in the secret room slowly woke up. Yuntian opened his eyes first. He shook his heavy head and whispered, "Why did I fall asleep?" He just got up and saw the prince's wife standing not far from him. Prince's wife. What's the situation outside? The situation is not optimistic. Although I have captured the king of Qi and Princess Xu Yang, the village is now surrounded by tens of thousands of southern Xinjiang soldiers. It is impossible to leave. What? Tens of thousands of southern Xinjiang soldiers? The others who have woken up were shocked by her words. Ruai, you said there are tens of thousands of southern Xinjiang soldiers outside? The old princess said in a deep voice. Shang Ruai nodded. Grandma, don't worry, I will find a way not to let them into the mansion. The old princess looked heavy and sighed. It's me, it's all my fault. If it weren't for me, the He family wouldn't be like this today. Among the people present, only Shang Ruai knew what she meant. The old princess thought that the fact that she took in the southern Xinjiang saint was exposed, which caused so much trouble. Grandma, it has nothing to do with you, you don't need to blame yourself. This time it was the southern Xinjiang emperor who wanted to expand his territory, so he took action against Qingzhou. Hearing what Shang Ruai said, the old princess slowly raised her head. Really? Yes, you don't have to worry, it will definitely be solved. Hiyuni walked up to her and whispered, Sister-in-law, I also want to go out to help you. Now that the king of Qi has been captured, although the people outside dare not act rashly, there may be some people who want to exchange hostages with me by kidnapping you. Now the best way is to hide in the secret room. Oi, this secret room can only be used for temporary shelter, not for a long time. There are so many of us, and many things are not convenient. As soon as Lin's voice fell, she heard a baby crying. The baby in Tsong Fangji's arms started crying. The old princess sighed. Ruai, since you said you captured the king of Qi, I believe the soldiers in southern Xinjiang will not act rashly. Let's go out first. After hearing everyone say this, Shang Ruai had no choice but to nod. You can go out. I will also place guards in the backyard. There are many female relatives in our mansion, and everyone is very cautious. Shang Ruai took them back to the mansion, and Hiyuni followed behind her. Yuni, what's the matter? Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. She pursed her lips, and her voice was already filled with tears. I swear, from now on, I will practice hard and will not be lazy for a day. Shang Ruai smiled. But is it true? Hiyuni nodded. Really, I will work hard. Okay, I get it. You go back to your own yard. I still have to ask King Qi some questions. Sister-in-law, where did you lock up King Qi? In a secret room. She whispered. You should go and rest.
Yes.
Hiyuni looked in the direction of the secret room and left with Xiao Huang. At this time, Yingxue came over, Mississippi. Let's go and see the king of Qi and his precious daughter. As she said that, she walked towards the woodshed. Miss, didn't you say that the king of Qi was in the secret room? She waved her hand. Does this lady have to say it? Some things are better known by yourself. Yingxue lowered her head and said nothing. Shang Ruai came to the woodshed and pushed the door open. At this time, The king of Qi and Princess Shuyang were tied to the pillars in the woodshed. She walked forward and untied the acupuncture points of the two. The king of Qi woke up slowly, but Princess Shuyang was still in a coma. The king of Qi looked at Shang Ruai and said in a cold voice, "You, how dare you put me under house arrest? Your Highness, why don't you understand? Even if you capture Qingzhou, we are still the people of Tianshan. To me, you are just an enemy general. Now that I have captured you, it is a great achievement. I am sure that Emperor Tianshan will restore our freedom because of this. You want to use me to seek credit and reward?" Shang Ruai nodded. "That's right. Ha ha ha, you can try it. Even if I die, I will not let you succeed. You, the Dingwa Palace, will bear the infamy of a guilty minister for generations to come, and you will never be able to turn over." Shang Ruai sneered. "I heard that the king of Qi in southern Xinjiang has a very high status. Now he is second only to the emperor in southern Xinjiang. Your Highness is willing to die." There was a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. "If your Highness is willing to sacrifice his life, you should have asked General Wang Zheng to rush in with his soldiers yesterday. Who knows, my He family might have been razed to the ground by your southern Xinjiang cavalry." Shang Ruai had guessed his thoughts long ago. Now that he is in a high position and has great power, how could he bear to die? The king of Qi's face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth and said, "What do you want?" "Withdraw." Shang Ruai said coldly, "Let your southern Xinjiang soldiers retreat 100 miles. Don't even think about it," he said coldly. Their southern Xinjiang has been suppressed by Tianshan for so long. It was not easy for the Dingwa Palace to be exiled by Tianshan, the blind emperor, and then they captured a city. Now they want him to withdraw his troops, dreaming. Shang Ruai smiled when she heard this. "Then let's just wait and see who can outlast the other." "Humph. Now, your He family has been surrounded by our southern Xinjiang soldiers, and food and grass cannot be transported in. How are you going to feed so many people? How about we both take a step back? You release my daughter, and I'll let them deliver food and grass to you."
How about that?
"Food and grass?" Shang Ruai couldn't help laughing. "Your Highness doesn't seem to know much about our He family. The thing I have the most is food and grass." As soon as she finished speaking, Yuntian's voice came. "Crown Princess, according to your instructions, the kitchen has steamed the buns, boiled a pot of chicken soup, and slaughtered a sheep."
What?
"Where did they get so much food? Everyone has worked hard these days. We must have a good meal today to replenish our bodies, and by the way, let the brothers outside smell the food."
Yes.
Yuntian smiled secretly. The crown princess was really murderous. The secret guards reported that the soldiers from southern Xinjiang were chewing on dry biscuits. Now they were killing chickens and sheep, and the smell alone made people salivate. Now it was the north wind again, and the fragrance drifted outside. The soldiers from southern Xinjiang wanted to jump into the yard, but every time they met the eyes of those tigers, their excitement instantly disappeared without a trace. After all, compared with eating, life was more important. They could only chew on the biscuits and wipe their saliva. After Shang Ruai left, Yuntian sent 2 secret guards to guard them. They held steamed buns in one hand and chicken soup in the other. There was also a large piece of roasted lamb on the tray next to them. The king of Qi smelled the smell and kept swallowing his saliva, but he did not ask for it. However, Princess Shuyang, who had just woken up, was too hungry to bear it. Let that come over. How dare she tie up this princess? She must be tired of living. Does she know who this princess is? As soon as she finished speaking, she heard her father's voice with a slight warning. "Yang." Shu Yang gritted his teeth. Now that both he and his father were in the hands of that, she didn't even let him drink his saliva. At this moment, Ing Shue walked in, looked at the father and daughter, and said coldly, "Noisy. Our young lady said that if you keep shouting, she will cut off your tongue." As soon as she finished speaking, Shu Yang really stopped talking. The 2 secret guards smiled and said, "Sure enough, the words of the prince's wife are more useful. Guard the door well, don't let them run away. Let the prince's wife rest assured, the 2 of us will definitely do our best." Ingshua smiled, looked at the two people again, and then turned and left. The father and daughter of the king of Qi looked at each other and really quieted down. At night, several figures shuttled through the night sky and landed in front of the woodshed like ghosts. The two secret guards fell asleep at this time. Is the news accurate? Are the prince and the princess here? Accurate. After rescuing the prince and the princess, you take them away, and I will find a chance to kill that stinky woman or kidnap a hostage. Okay. After the few people agreed, they walked towards the woodshed. Speak softly, don't wake up the two secret guards. Humph. The man drew out his sword and sneered. Wake them up? They have been drugged. How can they wake up? They pushed the door and entered the woodshed, which was empty. There was only a mountain of firewood and two wooden stakes. Where were the princes and princesses? Where is the prince? Didn't we get accurate information that the prince and the princess are locked in the woodshed? At this moment, a man reacted. No, we've been tricked.
What? Go. Go.
They wanted to leave in a panic, and at this moment, they heard a pop and the door of the woodshed closed. They tried to open the door, but no matter how hard they tried, the door didn't budge. Use a knife. They drew out their swords and chopped at the door. It took them a lot of effort to open the door. Just as they were about to escape, several silver needles flew in. Who? They looked around and saw a woman walking out of the night. Stealing in the middle of the night, you people in Prince Qi's mansion are all like this. Shang Ruai looked at the people in front of her and smiled. It's really like the master and the servant. Stop talking nonsense and hand over our prince and princess. Otherwise, as long as we give the order, our brothers outside will rush in. The people held swords in their hands, looking very imposing, but in fact they were strong on the outside but weak on the inside. They looked at the two secret guards in front of Shang Ruai. Was there any confusion in their eyes? You are not poisoned? It's just a knockout drug, and you dare to show off in front of me. Shang Ruai sneered. Catch them, their martial arts, and throw them out of the mansion. Yes. Shang Ruai watched them fighting with the secret guards with cold eyes. At this moment, Yun Tian heard the sound and flew forward. After a while, the killers from southern Xinjiang were captured alive. Throw them out of the mansion and let those southern Xinjiang soldiers see that this is the fate of breaking into the mansion without permission. If you don't want their princes and princesses to die, don't do these futile things. The southern Xinjiang soldiers who were originally guarding outside the door, ready to attack the mansion at any time to avenge their previous shame, were not waiting for the signal to attack, but their brothers who were thrown out of the mansion. Seeing this scene, Wang Zheng's pupils shrank suddenly, and he waved his hand and asked his men to bring those people back. General, I'm afraid these people are useless. Wang Zheng frowned. Deal with them. Useless people don't deserve to live in this world. Upon hearing this, the soldiers from southern Xinjiang who were nearby hurriedly lowered their heads. Shang Ruai returned to the yard. Ying Xue and Xuanmei were standing in the yard. When they saw her coming, they hurriedly stepped forward. Mississippi Shang Ruai looked at the two of them and didn't speak for a long time. Miss, what's wrong? Ying Xue said softly. We two servants heard the sound of fighting in the yard. What happened? Nothing, just assassins from southern Xinjiang who wanted to save the king of Qi and his daughter. Shang Ruai said in a light tone. Her eyes fell on the two of them, and the corners of her lips curled. But they have been solved, just a few petty thieves. Ying Xue heard this and said with a smile, Miss, you are very skilled in martial arts. Those 4 people are definitely not your opponents. Shang Ruai whispered, I do and think I ever said that there were 4 assassins. How did you know? Ying Xue's expression froze, and she hurriedly explained, I just guessed based on the sound of fighting. Really? Shang Ruai smiled, and her eyes suddenly became sharp when she looked at the two of them. Why did you betray me? Her voice was light, but the pressure in it was more intimidating than ever. Mississippi, answer me. Miss, we don't.
No?
Shang Ruai sneered. You've been with me for so long, and you don't even know my temper? I won't do anything that I'm not sure of. Since I ask you this, it means that I'm sure you are a spy. When did you start to suspect us? The two put away the innocent expressions on their faces and asked in a low voice, "I have never doubted you before." Shang Ruai looked at the two of them with a cold look in her eyes, until I smelled a familiar smell on Qian Jinyan, the jade bone regenerating pill. I was born with an extremely sensitive sense of smell, and the jade bone regenerating pill was prepared by me personally, so when this smell appeared, I concluded that Qian Jinyan had met someone who had access to the jade bone regenerating pill. Anyone who could draw the blueprint of the He family must be a member of the He family. In this house, except for the three of you by my side, there is only Uni. Xiaoyao has been by my side all the time, so it naturally cannot be her. Then there are only the three of you left. Today I deliberately revealed to you the location where the King of Qi is imprisoned. If they go to the secret room to look for it, the spy is Uni. If they go to the woodshed, the spy is undoubtedly you too. Shang Ruai looked at them. In addition to the coldness in her eyes, there was also deep anger hidden in them. When I brought you back, I made it clear that if you betray me, I will never forgive you. Ying Xue and Xuanmei knelt on the ground and said in a deep voice, "We too are sorry, young lady, but we have a blood feud that we cannot close our eyes in death if we do not avenge it. We feel guilty towards young lady in this life, and in the next life, we are willing to work like cows and horses to repay your kindness in this life." Another blood feud. How much debt does the Dinghua Palace owe? Blood feud? What feud? Ying Xue was about to say it, but her hand was grabbed by Xuanmei. No. Ying Xue thought for a while and looked at Shang Ruai again. After a moment, she turned to Xuanmei and said, "Since young lady is asking, let's talk to you." Xuanmei sighed and said softly, "Young lady, our family members were killed by the people in Dinghua Palace. My parents and brother were all slaughtered. Only the two of us sisters are left. How can we let go of such a blood feud? Then how'd you get in touch with Qian Jinyan?" "My parents and Mr. Qian all work for the Ling family." As soon as Ying Xue finished speaking, she was pinched hard by Xuanmei. "Ling family?" Shang Ruai frowned. "It's over." Ying Xue's heart skipped a beat. How could she say the master's family surname? So, Tianyin Casino is also the power of the Ling family. This Ling family. Shang Ruai looked at them and said coldly, "Ling Feng, is he your master?" The two of them knew that they had said the wrong thing, and they kept silent. She took 2 steps forward and whispered, "You have been in the He family for so long. Do you think they are killing innocent people?" The two shook their heads. But what can this prove? Family members were killed, and all the evidence pointed to Dinghua Mansion. For so many years, they have firmly believed that it was Dinghua Mansion that destroyed their happy family. Could it be that because they have lived here for a few months, they have forgotten all the hatred for so many years? Or through this period of time, they feel that they are not such vicious people, so they will dispel their suspicion of Dinghua Mansion? It's impossible. Shang Ruai looked at the two of them and suddenly recalled the female assassin from Chiyu Villa who came to assassinate her. Chiyu Villa was in the western regions and Tianyin Casino was also in the western regions. The female assassin's words were exactly the same as Ying Xue and Xuanmei's.
Could it be that?
So that's it. She finally understood why Ling Feng followed her in the western regions that day. It turned out that she had been calculated by them from the beginning. "You are from Chiyu Villa." Ying Xue and Xuanmei's expressions froze. They knew that the young lady was smart, but they didn't expect that she could guess their identities at once. "Young lady." "That's right." Shang Ruai looked at them and whispered, "But I really want to know what kind of hatred there is between the Dinghua Palace and you. I wonder if you can help me solve this puzzle?" Ying Xue and Xuanmei looked at each other and said, "Young lady, you are very kind to us two sisters. You have never even treated us as servants. We sisters are grateful. The hatred of exterminating our family is the grudge between us and the Dinghua Palace, and it will not be counted on you, young lady. So, you have been lurking around me for so long and have never attacked me." Ying Xue nodded and said, "It was you from Chiyu Villa who instigated Aunt Zhao to poison and finally took Aunt Zhao and the other two away?" They nodded. "That's right." "What happened back then?" The Ling family is the #1 embroidery shop in Jiangnan, and there are hundreds of embroiderers alone. Xuanmei and I are the servants of the Ling family. My parents are servants who have signed a death contract in the mansion. Back then, the Ling family offended the Dinghua Palace in some way. In just one night, hundreds of people in the Ling family died tragically, and even the babies in their cradles were not spared. Xuanmei and I were sent to serve the concubine outside that day. When we came back the next day, we saw the tragic scene in the mansion. The blood flowed like a river. It was miserable. When I went to look for my father and mother, I found their bodies and the bodies of my brother. My brother was only 4 years old. At their feet, there was a black token with the word Ding clearly written on it. According to the young master, there was more than one token at the scene. Looking at the wounds on their bodies, they were all injured by sharp blades. May I ask the prince's wife, in the entire Tianshan, who else can destroy the entire family overnight except the Dinghua Palace? Shang Ruai smiled and said when she heard this, just based on a token, you can be sure that it was the Dingwang Palace that committed this murder? How do you know it's not a frame-up? Miss, you don't know. This token is made of black iron, which is precious and hard to come by. In the whole Tianshan, I have only heard that the Dingwang Palace once had a piece of black iron and used it to make several tokens. So, who else could have destroyed the Ling family except the Dingwang Palace? It's just black iron. It's not the only one in the world. How rare is it? Moreover, if it is as you said, this token is so precious, it must be kept close to the body. How could it fall so easily in such a conspicuous place? There are more than one. Such an obvious frame-up. I don't know what the stupid Ling Feng is thinking. After hearing Shang Ruai's words, the Yingxue sisters were slightly shocked. Could it be that they have hated the wrong person for so many years? No, it's impossible. It's impossible. I kept telling myself in my heart that this was definitely not true, but my subconscious believed Shang Ruai's words. Miss Wei. Just then, there was a flame outside the courtyard, and an unpleasant smell drifted over. Crown Princess, it's bad. They poured kerosene outside. Yuntian said in a cold voice. It seems that they are planning to attack by force. Crown Princess, should we bring Prince Qi and Princess Xiang out? Shang Ruai shook her head and said in a deep voice, I think the general named Wang Zheng didn't want his master to be alive. You mean? That's right. Shang Ruai snorted coldly. Prince Qi has great power in southern Xinjiang and will definitely be suspected by the emperor. Now is the best opportunity to cut the grass and eradicate the roots. If the king of Qi died here, it would give southern Xinjiang a reason to send troops to Tianshan. The southern Xinjiang emperor's move killed 2 birds with 1 stone, which was really brilliant. Princess, what should we do now? When the enemy comes, we must fight him. When the water comes, we must block it with earth. Shang Ruai looked at Yuntian and said, since the emperor of southern Xinjiang wants him dead, we will let him live. You are dreaming if you want to burn everyone to death in this fire. She came to the room where the king of Qi was imprisoned and said with a smile, Your Highness, it seems that you have offended many people. The king of Qi felt severe pain all over his body. He looked up and saw that it was Shang Ruai. He looked back without leaving a trace, and his brows slightly frowned. Where is the person who saved them? Why is it her? Who is the prince looking for? She looked behind her and said in a daze, The prince is looking for that maid. Hearing her say this, the king of Qi couldn't help but feel depressed. It seemed that he was exposed. You know everything? The prince is really hidden, and he even planted spies around me. Humph, so what? Didn't you find out after all? The king of Qi laughed at himself. It seems that I can't escape. Shang Ruai smiled. Prince, I didn't intend to take your life before, and now it's still the same. Oh, ridiculous. You don't want to take my life. What are you doing now? Although I imprisoned you here, I didn't torture you, let alone do anything to harm your life. But now, someone really wants to take your life. Hearing this, the king of Qi frowned. What do you mean? Your Highness, as subordinates are pouring kerosene outside right now, trying to burn everyone in this mansion to death. They know that you are in my hands, but they still want to do this. Why do you think that's the case? The king of Qi frowned even more deeply. He had lived to this age and was accustomed to all kinds of conspiracies and intrigues. In just a moment, he understood what she meant. You mean my subordinates want my life? Not only that. She found a chair in the room and sat down. Her tone was light, but with an unquestionable firmness. Besides these subordinates who want to replace you, is there anyone else in southern Xinjiang who wants you to die here? The king of Qi was shocked. Your Majesty, it was your Majesty. Besides him, who else could control Wang Zheng? He looked at Shang Ruai with a deeper gaze. This woman was really not simple. She analyzed the situation so thoroughly that even he could only think clearly after her suggestion. Why are you telling me all this? Does the prince want to make a comeback? Shang Ruai's lips curled slightly, and a dark light flashed in her beautiful eyes. What do you want to do? At this time, the soldiers outside the courtyard were pouring kerosene, and a young general stepped forward. General, if we do this, what should the prince do? We haven't rescued the prince yet. If the people in Dinghua Palace are forced into a corner, they may attack the prince and the princess. Wang Zheng heard this, and a smile of success flashed across his eyes. Attack? It's better to do it. His Majesty didn't want the king of Qi to go back alive. Although he thought so in his heart, he pretended to be worried and said, if we don't teach them a lesson, they really don't take us seriously. The face of my southern border has been trampled underfoot. If we continue to be indifferent, it will really become a joke.
But
before he could finish, he was interrupted by a figure who came quickly. General, the kerosene has been poured. Shall we light it now? Wang Zheng looked ahead. He stepped forward and shouted loudly. Listen, everyone inside. If you don't hand over the prince and the princess, I will burn down your house. If the prince and the princess make any mistakes, we will raze your He family to the ground and kill you all. He deliberately made the words unpleasant to anger the He family. He thought privately that it would be better to kill the old man so that he could save himself some effort. After he finished speaking, the gate of the courtyard was still closed. A triumphant smile appeared on the corner of Wang Zheng's mouth. He waved his hand, and a soldier handed him a flaming arrow. In that case, don't blame me for being rude. Just as he was about to draw his bow, several young generals came over. General, wait a little longer. The prince has not been rescued yet. If you burn down this house like this, what should we do if the prince dies in it? Yes. General, wait a little longer. How can we wait? This general came with the order of His Majesty. We must take down the He family, otherwise we will all be beheaded. Wang Zheng waved his hand, and several soldiers under his command stepped forward and dragged the young generals away. Just when he thought his plan had succeeded, he heard a click and the originally closed door slowly opened, and the figure of the king of Qi appeared from the dark. Prince! A voice with a little surprise shouted. It's the prince. Wang Zheng thought to himself that it was not good, and he must not let him live. He narrowed his eyes and made up his mind. He drew his bow and shot an arrow. The action was quick and neat, and the arrow flew away with the sound of breaking through the air. Your Highness, be careful. A young general shouted loudly. General, it's Your Highness. Wang Zheng looked at the flying arrow with grim eyes. The king of Qi was injured and had difficulty moving. He could not dodge in time by himself. Just when the arrow was about to hit him, Yun Tian fell from the sky, and the long sword in his hand turned out a sword flower and directly knocked the arrow to the ground. The king of Qi stepped back a few steps and whispered, Thank you. Your Highness, there is no need to thank you. My princess said that this incident can make Your Highness see some things clearly. Your Highness will naturally know how to thank her. The king of Qi smiled palely. He was really predicted by Shang Ruai. He did not expect that the emperor he loyally assisted wanted him dead, and the subordinates he brought up also wanted him dead, while he was still thinking about how to help him conquer the country and expand his territory. It was really sad, so sad. I once laughed at the Ding Palace, following a blind monarch and being loyal to him. Now I think that my situation is worse than that of the Ding Palace. At least the Ding Palace was only exiled, and there was still a place to live. On the other hand, I was not only plotted against by His Majesty, but also betrayed by my subordinates. Wang Zheng's eyes were cold. Just one step away. Just one step away from killing him. He clenched his fists, and the bow and arrow in his hand squeaked. The soldiers behind him who were taken away looked at him strangely. They could see clearly that it was the prince who came out first, and the general started to draw the bow. Could it be that the general had an unruly heart towards the prince? General, now that the prince has been released from the Ding State Palace, should we still light the fire? Wang Zheng snorted coldly and whispered, "Why not? I have never said that as long as the prince is released, I will not burn her house." Yes. He took the torch and was about to throw it under the courtyard wall. At this moment, a strong internal force attacked them, and the torch flew backwards in an instant and landed on the barrel on the truck where they were carrying kerosene. The flames ignited instantly, and a gust of wind blew the sparks away. Some sparks just fell on the soldiers who poured kerosene, and the fire was like a prairie fire, instantly enveloping them. For a time, wailing and shouting filled people's ears. "You are going too far." As soon as the words fell, a sneer was heard. "Who is going too far?" Shang Ruai's figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. "Not only did you bring so many southern Xinjiang soldiers to invade my territory, but you also wanted to massacre my entire family. Regardless of whether Qingzhou has already belonged to southern Xinjiang, you have no reason to do such a thing." She was dressed in a red dress with a white fox fur cloak on the outside, and her black hair fell to her waist like a waterfall. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, I'm afraid everyone would sigh. There was no such thing in ancient times, and the world has never seen it. It is so magnificent and beautiful that it is beyond praise. Shang Ruai stood behind the king of Qi and smiled faintly. "Can your highness see it clearly today?" The king of Qi did not speak or move, but just looked at Wang Jing opposite. Feeling the gaze of the king of Qi, Wang Jing narrowed his eyes and said in a cold voice, "Since my Nanjiang has conquered Qingzhou, everything here belongs to my Nanjiang, including this house. As long as I want, it will be razed to the ground in an instant." What a big tone, General Wang Jing. Are you still asleep? Shang Ruai sneered. Back then, you Nanjiang were defeated by the Dingwa Palace. Why did you come to the He family full of women to find a place? The general is really a man with backbone, a man of iron will. Shang Ruai's words made the Nanjiang soldiers blush. There were so many of them, but they couldn't even beat a woman. It was impossible to say that they were not ashamed. Yuntian couldn't help laughing out loud. The crown prince's wife really didn't use any dirty words when scolding people. Humph. If we hadn't cared about the safety of the prince and the princess, we would have rushed into your He family long ago. It's just a small house. Do you really think you are an iron wall? His eyes fell on the king of Qi. Prince, I am grateful for your kindness, but today we are facing a powerful enemy. I am afraid I will let you down. The words sounded nice, but didn't they mean that you didn't want to care about his life or death? Shang Ruai sneered and said, "Everyone thinks that a military general is a reckless man. I only know after meeting the general today that this rumor is not credible at all. General Wang Jing might as well be a counselor and aide instead of a military general, doing all kinds of shameful things." What did you say? Isn't my meaning clear enough? She sneered. You just want to kill someone with a borrowed knife so that you can replace him. Why do you have to make yourself sound so noble? Her words were direct enough, and the young generals behind him heard it clearly, and they looked at Wang Zheng with even more suspicion. Stop trying to sow discord. Wang Zheng was furious when his thoughts were exposed, and he shouted loudly, "Soldiers, listen to my orders. No matter what the cost, we must raze the He family to the ground, no matter if they are from the He family or alive." "Yes, sir." Except for the confidence of King Qi, the other soldiers shouted loudly, "Follow the general's orders."
Kill, kill, kill.
Wang Jing picked up the bow again and shot at the courtyard wall coated with kerosene. It's over. Everything is over. After today, the Dingwa Palace will completely disappear from the world, and he will become the first king of a different surname in southern Xinjiang. Just as he was dreaming, the smile on his lips suddenly froze on his face. Where's the fire? They had poured so much kerosene. How could it not burn at all? The torches thrown by other soldiers did not ignite the kerosene. Zhang Ruoyi had an expression on her face that should be so, which made Wang Zheng's eyebrows jump. You again. What did you do? Maybe the general's kerosene is not easy to use. She had ordered people to sprinkle flame retardant powder, and the kerosene was impure, so of course the fire could not burn. Seeing this, the king of Qi couldn't help but secretly rejoice that he didn't fight her to the last step. This woman had too many trump cards, and he had to admit that he was not her opponent. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little depressed. He was once defeated by the war king Hiyuan and his son, but now he couldn't even beat the daughter-in-law of their He family. It was really cowardly.
Kill.
Wang Jing shouted angrily. Kill one, and I'll reward you with 100 taels of silver. 100 taels. Upon hearing this, the soldiers of southern Xinjiang picked up their knives, and tens of thousands of soldiers rushed towards the He family. Zhang Ruoyi waved her hand, and dozens of secret guards stood on the courtyard wall, each holding a large box filled with grenades.
Fire.
Her palm fell, and dozens of grenades were thrown towards the opposite side like rain.
Boom, 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 boom.
Explosions sounded one after another, and for a while, the smoke billowed, and the people who rushed to the front were all killed. Some died, some were disabled, and it was so miserable. On the battlefield, swords are ruthless, and life and death are in an instant. After the second wave of grenades fell, the soldiers of southern Xinjiang no longer dared to rush forward. Wang Jing looked at the corpses on the ground, and his heart was horrified.
What kind of monster was that thing?
He looked up in the direction of Zhang Ruoyi, only to see her standing there motionless, with dozens of secret guards standing behind her, and she was like a king, looking at them as if they were a group of ants. The king of Qi trembled and said, Withdraw the troops, I will withdraw the troops, and don't fight anymore. Your Highness, do you remember what you promised me? Zhang Ruoyi said lightly. Remember. The king of Qi slowly closed his eyes and sighed. I promise you. A general's success is the result of the sacrifice of thousands of soldiers. Your Majesty must know this truth. If there is a war, the people will suffer the most.
Today you met our He family.
If it were someone else, they might really die in your hands. I promise you that I will never attack the city. Zhang Ruoyi nodded. Your Majesty, I believe it, but if your Majesty breaks your promise, I will activate the poison in your body. I promise that no one in this world can cure this poison except me. Hearing her say this, the king of Qi gritted his teeth. He didn't expect that he would be controlled by others in the end after being so powerful all his life. The king of Qi stepped forward and said loudly, All generals, listen to my order. Retreat.
What?
Wang Zheng's heart trembled.
Retreat?
They finally fought here, and now they have to retreat? The wealth and glory that is within their reach, are they going to give up like this? No way. His eyes darkened, and he winked at the deputy general behind him. The deputy general quietly took out a hidden weapon and looked at the king of Qi, who was walking slowly towards them with a gloomy look. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step.
Now.
He pulled the mechanism, and a dagger flew towards the king of Qi at a very fast speed. The sudden change made everyone's face change. Villain behavior. Zhang Ruoyi's body flew into the air, and with a wave of her hand, a dagger flew out, but the dagger was faster and was about to hit the king of Qi. At this moment, a white feather arrow flew at a very fast speed like a stream of light, and it just knocked the dagger to the ground. The dagger shot by Zhang Ruoyi flew towards the deputy general.
Puff.
The dagger went straight into the heart of the deputy general. White feather arrow. The prince. The prince is back, Yuntian said in surprise. At this moment, the ground was faintly shaken. Yuntian could not help but stand there in a daze, muttering, Iron Feather Guard. It's the Iron Feather Guard. The Iron Feather Guard is the guard of the Dinghua Palace. It is because of the Iron Feather Guard that the Dinghua Palace is invincible on the battlefield. Any one of the Iron Feather Guards can fight 100 people alone. Zhang Ruoyi looked into the distance and saw a black cavalry rushing towards them. The man at the front of the team had a mixture of shock and anger in his eyes. He waved his whip and held a golden bow in his hand. He Jingheng. Shang Rui finally smiled a little. This was the first smile from her heart in such a long time. Wang Zheng looked at the black team and couldn't help sweating. How could the Iron Feather Guard appear here? He was overwhelmed by Shang Rui alone. If He Jingheng and the Iron Feather Guard were added, the defeat today would be certain. Soon, the Black Cavalry came close, and the well-trained team lined up in a row. Although the number of soldiers was less than 1/10 of the soldiers in southern Xinjiang, the momentum was more compelling than that of the army. He Jingheng. Shang Rui's voice was very weak, but it still reached He Jingheng's ears. He exerted force on his feet, flew forward, and landed directly beside Shang Rui. Looking at her slightly pale face, he couldn't help but be furious. Feeling the anger of the prince, Yun Tian lowered his head and dared not speak. Are you injured? Shang Rui shook her head. I just feel a little tired. You have a good rest, leave this to me. He Jingheng stepped forward, stood beside the King of Qi, and whispered, Your Highness the King of Qi is so powerful. Taking advantage of this prince's absence, he actually bullied me. His voice was extremely cold, as if it had been quenched by ice. Since he appeared, the King of Qi's eyes fell on his legs. Shocked. Your leg. He Jingheng glanced at him. How? Your leg is actually healed. He murmured. How is it possible? Such a serious injury. Even the tendons are broken. How can it be restored to its original state? Even if the medical saint is alive, I am afraid he can't do it. He Jingheng smiled contemptuously. How did my leg recover? Don't worry about it, King Qi. Wang Zheng was also very shocked by He Jingheng's leg, but compared with the shock, the fear and anger in his heart were even greater. Now that He Jingheng has returned and brought back the Iron Feather Guard, the He family is even more untouchable. At this moment, Shang Rui suddenly felt dizzy, and everything in front of her seemed to begin to blur. She staggered. Everyone's attention was on He Jingheng and the Iron Feather Guard, and no one noticed that she was wrong, but her slightly shaking body fell into Wang Zheng's sight. He curled up a sneer at the corner of his lips. Isn't the opportunity here? He quickly pressed the mechanism of the hidden weapon on his wrist. Silver light flashed, and a small sleeve arrow came quickly. Shang Rui sensed the danger coming, and she wanted to dodge, but her feet could not move at all. He Jingheng frowned, flew up, and grabbed the feather arrow. Just when everyone's heart was hanging, Wang Zheng raised a bloodthirsty smile, and the next moment, a very thin silver needle flew out from the sleeve arrow and stabbed toward Shang Rui's heart. This unexpected change surprised everyone. Shang Rui didn't care about anything else. Just as she was about to hide in the space, she suddenly found that she had lost contact with the space. What happened? There was no time to think about it, and the silver needle was already close. At this moment, two familiar figures appeared in front of her. It was Ying Xue and Xuanmei. The silver needle went straight into Ying Xue's body.
Puff.
A mouthful of blood spurted out. Ying Xue's body fell backwards, her eyes closed, and she was unconscious. Shang Rui was anxious, but her consciousness gradually became chaotic, and the next moment her consciousness gradually sank into darkness. After an unknown amount of time, Shang Rui slowly woke up. Is this space? She rubbed her dizzy head and tried to sit up from the grass. She struggled for a long time, but couldn't move at all. She sighed in frustration. This time she was exhausted, probably because she used too many things in the space, and she didn't know what was going on outside. She slowly closed her eyes, feeling her body's strength gradually recovering in the space. She felt tired, and her head became more and more dizzy. That's it, after being tense for so long. It's time to have a good rest. Her consciousness completely escaped into the darkness, and the outside world was completely in chaos at this time. After she fainted, He Jingheng seemed to be crazy. All the deputy generals and soldiers of Wang Zheng's lineage were strangled to death by the Iron Feather Guard. King Qi and his soldiers wanted to stop them, but they didn't have the courage to speak. After all, He Jingheng was already bloodthirsty. The King of Qi was terrified. Although he had fought with He Jingheng, He had never fought face to face with the Iron Feather Guards. Seeing 20,000 soldiers being slaughtered by thousands of Iron Feather Guards in a short period of time, he realized the horror of the Dingwa Palace. The king of Qi withdrew all the soldiers stationed in Qingzhou. At this time, the actual jurisdiction of Qingzhou had fallen into the hands of He Jingheng. Before Tianshuan's troops arrived, Qingzhou had been returned to Tianshan. After looking at the memorial in his hand, Emperor Tianshan swept the ginseng soup handed to him by the maid on the ground with a sullen face. Wen Gang, who was kneeling on the ground, did not even dare to raise his head. He wished he could not even breathe for fear of angering the emperor and losing his life. Call Situ Wen to me. Your Majesty, General Situ has been ill since he came back from Qingzhou. It is said that he was poisoned by some strange poison. The imperial physician has examined him many times, but there is still no improvement. Where is Zhou Xiang? Bring him here. He was the one who promised me that there would be absolutely no problem with the Dingwa Palace. I will punish him for deceiving the emperor. Your Majesty, Lord Zhou Xiang, like General Situ, was also poisoned. Tell them that even if they have to be carried, they must roll over to see me. Yes.
Wen Gang hørlig retterated.
If he stayed any longer, he would be afraid that his head would really be moved. At this moment, Shang Yan and the Duke of Jingwa came to ask to see Emperor Tianshan. Congratulations, Your Majesty. We have heard that the soldiers from southern Xinjiang have retreated, and Qingzhou has been returned to Tianshan. The small country in southern Xinjiang must have been intimidated by Your Majesty's majesty, so it returned Qingzhou intact to Zhao. After Shang Yan finished speaking, he felt a cold gaze on him. His body trembled. Did he say something treasonous? He thought carefully about what he had just said. It was full of flattery. There should be nothing that offended the emperor. The Duke of Jingwa glanced at him with a rather unhappy expression. The old man Shang Yan actually said what he wanted to say. At this moment, he found that the emperor's face was extremely dark, and he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "What happened to the emperor today? Congratulations?" Emperor Tianshan sneered. "Where does this joy come from?" Shang Yan paused and said hurriedly, "Of course it is because Qingzhou has been returned intact to Zhao. The people are spared from the suffering of war, and the people live and work in peace and contentment, which is of great benefit to the court. Your Majesty does not have to worry too much. It can be said that many joys have come. Haha. The jade is returned intact to Zhao. The jade is returned intact to Zhao." He said coldly, "Your Excellency Shang is right. The jade is indeed returned intact to Zhao, but don't forget, this world belongs to the He family. It is my world, not He Jingheng's. It is not the Dingwa Palace." Shang Yan was shocked when he heard this. What does this have to do with the Dingwa Palace? Look. He threw the memorial on the table down. The Duke of Jingwa hurriedly picked it up, and after a quick glance, he exclaimed, "Rebellion! Rebellion! It's the Iron Feather Guard. Didn't they say that the Iron Feather Guard had disappeared? How could they reappear?" And they appeared in Qingzhou silently. Shang Yan's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He walked forward, and after taking a look, his heart sank to the bottom of the valley in an instant. What's going on? He knelt on the ground with a plop. "Your Majesty, I don't know about this. Your Majesty. Since the birth of that rebellious girl, I have never taken care of her. I don't know anything about this."
Please understand.
"Your Majesty, Prime Minister Shang is in the capital, and he must not know about the things in the exile place." The Duke of Jingwa whispered, "Prime Minister Shang has devoted himself to the court. Please understand." Emperor Tianshan was furious, but the court was in need of people at this time, and it was he who nodded in agreement to marry Shang Ruai, the concubine, to He Jingheng. Who would have thought that a mere concubine's daughter could have such great abilities? At this moment, they came to report that the crown prince He Lingxing wanted to see him. Emperor Tianshan nodded. "Let him in." As soon as He Lingxing walked into the imperial study, he saw two people kneeling on the ground and a pile of ginseng soup not far away. "Your son pays homage to His Majesty. Stand up." "Thank you, Your Majesty." He Lingxing stood up, looked at his still gloomy face and whispered, I heard about it on the way here.
What do you think?
Your son thinks that the titles of all the people in the Dingwa Palace should be restored, and they should be reinstated and recalled from their exile. He Lingsheng whispered, "It is better to have them under your nose than to be far away in the borderland." Upon hearing this, Duke Xinghua and Shang Nian hurriedly stopped him and said, "Prince, this cannot be done. The Dingwa Palace plotted treason. How can their crimes be pardoned and allowed to return to Beijing?" He Lingsheng did not reply, but looked at the emperor and whispered, "Please make the decision, your majesty." Emperor Tianshun frowned and whispered, "Let's do as the prince says." Indeed, instead of letting them expand secretly in the borderland, perhaps it would not take many years for him to hand over his throne to them. Any clues about the firearms? Father, according to informants, the firearms seem to have been developed by He Jingheng's wife.
What?
It's that little concubine's daughter again. Upon hearing this, Shang Nian lowered his head even lower, wishing he could bury it directly into the ground. "My dear Shang, you really have a good daughter. Your Majesty, I know my crime." "What crime have you committed?" Emperor Tianshun sneered. "But this person has lived under your nose for so many years, and you didn't notice it at all. I don't know if she hit it too deeply or you, as a father, are too useless." Emperor Tianshuan's words made Shang Nian even more ashamed, and his body was still shaking until he left the imperial study. At this time, Emperor Tianshun and He Lingsheng were the only ones left in the imperial study. "Shinger, if you recall her to the capital, are you confident that you can get the firearm? If they can get the firearm, they will be invincible in the future when expanding their territory, and they can really unify the world." "Father, this firearm comes from the concubine of the Shang family. If you want to get it, I'm afraid it will take some trouble." Upon hearing this, Emperor Tianshun sighed and said leisurely, "If there was no exchange of marriages, I can now give this concubine of the Shang family to you as a concubine, which is 1,000 times better than the legitimate daughter of the Shang family." He Lingsheng heard this, his eyes flickered, and he just said softly, "Father, now the matter is done, but the firearm is extremely important to Tianshun. I will try my best to find the firearm." In fact, the reason why they pardoned the Dingwa Palace was not because they had made contributions to defending the enemy, but just to get the firearm that could shock the four directions. On the same day, the pardon edict was sent to Qingzhou by 800 miles. At this time, Shang Ruai was still in a coma, and the most worrying thing was that she showed no signs of waking up. Everyone in the He family came to visit her every day. He Jingheng stayed by the bedside without leaving. On this day, He Yuni came over with the old princess. "Jingheng," the old princess whispered, "is Roy showing any signs of waking up today?" He Jingheng shook his head, "No." He Yuni looked at Shang Ruai, who was pale on the bed, with tears in her eyes. "Brother, what happened to my sister-in-law?" He Jingheng said nothing, but just looked at Shang Ruai. The old princess sighed. "She is too tired. No matter what, it is because the people in our Dingwa Palace are too useless. With the enemy at the door, no one can go to the front to help. There are obviously men in the family, but a woman is needed to risk her life to protect and run around to plan. Grandma, please go back and rest. When Roy wakes up, I will send someone to tell you." Hearing this, the old princess knew that he was upset and didn't want to say more, so she had to take Hiyuni away. He Jingheng stretched out his hand and wanted to touch her face, but looking at her face as pale as a porcelain doll, He Jingheng took his hand back.
"Ruoyi, I'm sorry."
He choked a little and said, "It's all my fault. If I hadn't left you alone, it wouldn't have become like this today." He grabbed her hand and felt the cold temperature on it. He quickly put her hand into the quilt and carefully tucked the back corner. Winter has not yet passed, and the temperature is still very low. Even if the floor heating in the room is burning very vigorously, Shang Ruai's hands are still as cold as ice. He Jingheng frowned and shouted loudly, "Someone! Doctor! Where is the doctor?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Tainyunki carried the court doctor to the room quickly. "Prince, the court doctor is here." The court doctor didn't even tidy up his clothes, and his hair was messy, but seeing the prince's anxious look, he didn't care about anything else and ran to the bed with the medicine box. He first felt her pulse, then opened her eyes and took a look, and couldn't help but be horrified. This is clearly not a few days left. What's wrong? The court doctor looked heavy-hearted and knelt on the ground in panic. Prince, please forgive me for my incompetence and inability to save the crown princess. What did you say? He Jingheng was furious, clenched his hands tightly, and tried his best to suppress the urge to kill. Say it again. The crown princess's pulse is weak, which is a sign of dying. Her pupils are dilated, which clearly means she won't live for many days.
Impossible.
She is not injured or poisoned. How could she become like this? The crown princess is like a natural death, not caused by external factors. The court doctor had never encountered such a situation and was very puzzled. The crown princess's body is like that of a centenarian at this moment. Nonsense. The court doctor hung his head and dared not speak. He Jingheng's voice was very loud, and Yun Tian and Yun Qi outside the door heard it clearly, and even the old princess and Qin heard it. Jingheng, what's going on? Qin walked forward and looked at Shang Ruai on the bed. Ruai still can't wake up? He Jingheng sat on the bed, staring at the doctor, as if he wanted to eat him alive. At this time, in the space, Shang Ruai was lying quietly on the ground, and she could not perceive anything outside the space. Her consciousness was floating in a void space, as if 100 years had passed. At this time, there seemed to be a voice calling her in her ears. Ruai, Ruai. Wake up, Ruai. Wake up quickly. Countless voices appeared in her ears, and Shang Ruai's consciousness slowly returned. She slowly opened her eyes. At this time, everything in the space seemed to be still. She slowly got up and found that there seemed to be many crystal-clear particles floating in the space. Shang Ruai walked closer and touched it lightly. The particles were like bubbles, breaking at the touch. The energy contained in it scattered in the space. Every time she smashed a particle, Shang Ruai felt a force entering her body. Not long after, she felt that her originally weak body was gradually filled with strength, and even had a tendency to overflow. Just when she smashed another bubble, the energy in her body could no longer bear it, and it spread to the surroundings and landed on a herb. The herb shook for a moment, and then it grew visibly. Shang Ruai was surprised. At this moment, all the particles floating in the air broke apart, and countless pure energies fell from the air. Bathing in the energy waterfall, she felt warm and comfortable. How could there be so many changes in the space? She strolled in the space, feeling as light as a swallow, and all the previous fatigue was swept away. At this moment, a low cry came from outside the space, and Shang Ruai's mind moved. Ruai. It was He Jingheng's voice. She looked outside the space and saw him looking at her, his eyes red, his face haggard. Ruai, what happened to you? Shang Ruai never thought that she would see He Jingheng crying in her lifetime. She slowly raised her hand, trying to wipe away the tears from the corners of his eyes, and suddenly found herself still in space. With a slight movement of consciousness, she flashed out of the space, her consciousness gradually returned, and the person who had been unconscious for a long time finally slowly opened his eyes. Jingheng. A slightly weak voice appeared. He Jingheng suddenly raised his drooping head and looked at the person on the bed in shock. Ruai, you're awake. He was about to call the court doctor, but she grabbed his wrist. No need. Shang Ruai smiled. My medical skills are much better than the court doctor's.
How do you feel now?
Shang Ruai nodded. Nothing. You don't have to worry. He Jingheng did not mention what the court doctor said before, for fear that everything in front of him was her last breath. She sat up, and her body suddenly felt exhausted. It seems that she consumed too much energy before, which made her very weak now. Even with the blessing of space, it is only her consciousness that is repaired, and the fatigue of the body still needs to be rested. I'm a little hungry, she said softly. I want to drink porridge. Yun Tian, go and make porridge.
Yes.
I'll go now. Shang Ruai smiled. Yun Tian is a grown man. How can he make porridge? He Jingheng took her hand. Ruai, let the court doctor take a look so that I can feel at ease. I'm really fine. Are you still not confident in my medical skills? Looking at the tangled look on his face, Zhang Ruai shook her head. If you are not at ease, let the court doctor come. Hearing that, Zhang Ruai woke up, except for those men. Everyone in the He family came to her room. Sister-in-law, your illness really scared us to death. He Yuni's voice was tinged with tears. Look, I can't eat well, I can't sleep, I've lost weight. Song Fangji has been silent since the last incident. Although she stood far away with a child in her arms, the concern in her eyes was genuine. Qin and the old lady, needless to say, gave many instructions, and everyone was willing to leave only after hearing the court doctor's diagnosis that there was no major problem. Are you relieved now? He Jingheng said nothing, just staring at her steadily. Why are you looking at me like this? At this moment, He Jingheng suddenly stretched out his hand and pinched her face. Ugh, it hurts. Zhang Ruai shook his hand away, covering her slightly red face. What are you doing? I've never seen a woman as bold as you. Those are soldiers from southern Xinjiang, tens of thousands of them. Do you know what will happen if you are not careful? God knows when he received the tip-off, his heart almost stopped beating. He didn't dare to think about what he would do if something happened to her. The situation was urgent at the time. My grandmother was old, and there were only women in the family. If I didn't find a way to deal with the southern Xinjiang soldiers, this yard was not a copper wall and iron wall, and it would be breached. At that time, let alone the people protected by the He family, even my grandmother and others would not be able to escape the murderous hands. What will young and beautiful women like Yuni face? I believe you know better than me, Zhang Ruai said in a light tone. Although those days were difficult, she didn't complain. Ruai, thank you for your hard work. He was about to hold her in his arms when he heard a noise at the door. Princess, the porridge is ready. Yuntian walked in with a happy face. The kitchen said that the temperature is just right now. He walked into the room and saw his master staring at him with a gloomy face. Prince, give the porridge to me. He glanced at him and said, You can go now. Hearing this, Yuntian hurriedly put down the tray and retreated. He Jingheng held the bowl, scooped up a spoonful of porridge, and tested it at the edge of his mouth. The temperature was just right. He had never served anyone before, and although his movements were a bit clumsy, Zhang Ruai felt particularly warm. At this time, Yunqi whispered, Prince, the people in this exile land gathered outside the mansion and sent a lot of food, saying that it was for the princess to replenish her body.
No.
He Jingheng fed the last spoonful of porridge into her mouth. If it weren't for protecting them, she wouldn't have fought so hard and lost half her life. When he thought of the doctor's previous diagnosis, he felt that the blood in his body had coagulated. A sign of impending death. When these 4 words appeared, he felt scared for the first time in his life. No matter how strong the opponent was or how difficult the predicament was, he had never felt the slightest fear. He even thought that only the weak would be afraid. But now he clearly realized that perhaps she had become his weakness since a long time ago. Everyone is kind-hearted. What are you doing? Zhang Ruai pushed him and turned to say, Get my cloak. I said no, it's no. He Jingheng frowned. Do you know how cold it is outside now? You haven't recovered yet. If you catch a cold again, do you want me off to death? No. 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 Zhang Ruai looked at him and couldn't help laughing. I really want to see what you look like when you are angry. But she stretched her hand to the side. Xiaoyao, who had returned, looked at the two of them hesitantly, not knowing whether to pass the cloak in her hand over. Zhang Ruai, He Jingheng said angrily. I told you not to go, did you hear me? TSK. Zhang Ruai rolled her eyes at him. You try to yell at me again.
Me.
Yuntian and Yunqi saw the frustrated look on their master's face for the first time. Yes, it was frustrated. In the end, Zhang Ruai still went outside the mansion. Crown Prince's consort. The Crown Prince's consort is here. Crown Prince's consort. Before, people either called her the host or the lady, and no one ever called her the Crown Prince's consort. After all, the Dingwa Palace no longer existed. If she was called the Crown Prince's consort again, if someone with ulterior motives heard it, she might be accused of disobeying the emperor's order, and she would be beheaded. But at this time, in their hearts, the Dinghua Palace that protected Tianshan appeared again. They would rather risk being beheaded to give her the most honorable status. Thank you for your protection, the Crown Prince's consort. We will always remember your kindness and virtue. Thank you for your protection. The Crown Prince's consort is so righteous. As they spoke, the people, who were getting more and more excited, knelt down one after another. Shang Ruai was shocked and said quickly, "Please stand up. It's just a small effort. You don't have to do this. And now that the Dinghua Palace is gone, you must not call me the Crown Prince's consort. Crown Prince's consort. You are the Crown Prince's consort in our hearts. It is a great blessing for us to be blessed by the Crown Prince's consort." Yes, the Crown Prince's consort is so kind. These days, they can see clearly that if it weren't for Shang Ruai's protection and the protection of the secret guards of the Dinghua Palace, they would have been killed by the soldiers from southern Xinjiang. They heard that many people died in Qingzhou City, and the soldiers from southern Xinjiang burned, killed, looted, and committed all kinds of evil in the city. If it weren't for the Dinghua Palace's willingness to take them in and fight to the death with them, they would have died long ago. In the past few days, the shops in the town and the county were closed, so they went to the mountains to catch some prey and sent them to her. "Crown Princess, we don't have anything to show off. Now the weather is very cold, and there are no fruits. We went to the mountains to hunt some game for you. You can try it. If you like it, we will go to hunt again." Shang Ruai looked at them, her heart warmed. "I appreciate your kindness. There is everything in the mansion, and there is no shortage of food. Take these prey and divide them up. Crown Princess, these are our honor to you. How can you take them back?" "Honor?" Shang Ruai's mouth twitched. She didn't seem to be old enough to use this word. At this moment, He Jingheng came out, and everyone's eyes fell on his legs. "Crown Prince, is the Crown Prince's leg healed?" In the hearts of the people of Tianshan, the Dinghua Palace is the god of war and the patron saint of the entire Tianshan. Although it was exiled, its status in their hearts remained the same. Previously, the Dingwang was missing and the prince was disabled. In addition to regret, they were more worried and heartbroken. Now the prince's leg injury has healed. This time, the southern border invaded and marched north to defend the last checkpoint of Qingzhou. It was still the Dinghua Palace. If there were no prince and the prince's wife, how could the southern border stop after swallowing Qingzhou? The whole Tianshan would be dragged into the war. "Thank you, Prince and Princess, for saving my life." Shang Ruai coughed twice, and He Jingheng's face darkened. He whispered, "The prince's wife is not feeling well, so go back and rest first. We accept your kindness." He waved his hand, and the guards stepped forward and took the game into the palace. At this time, a group of guards came out carrying a lot of food. "It's cold today, and there's less food. Those soldiers from southern Xinjiang should have plundered all the food in your home. You can take these rice and flour and divide them first. After this period of time, Qingzhou will prosper again, and then there will be no shortage of food." Everyone knelt down after hearing this. "Thank you, Crown Prince and Crown Princess." After everyone left, Shang Ruai turned around and wanted to go back to the mansion. At this moment, her body flew into the air, and the smell of black bamboo filled her nose. She was hugged by He Jingheng. "What are you doing?" Shang Ruai whispered. "Put me down quickly." He Jingheng glanced at her, without saying a word, and directly carried her sideways into the mansion. Shang Ruai struggled in vain, so she had to bury her head in his chest. Shame. Too shameful. Along the way, all the guards turned their bodies away. "Are you kidding me?
Who dares to stare at me at this time?"
Isn't this waiting to be gouged out by the Crown Prince?" Back in the room, He Jingheng gently put her on the bed. At this time, Shang Ruai's face was slightly red, which was very beautiful. He Jingheng clenched his hands and finally did not make any extra movements. "You have a good rest, I'll go take care of some things." After saying that, without waiting for Shang Ruai to speak, he left directly, and that action actually had a bit of the meaning of fleeing. After He Jingheng left, Xiaoyao walked in, holding a bowl of ginseng soup in her hand, and said softly, "Miss, Ing Shue and Xuanmei want to see you." Shang Ruai paused. I will reply to them now. After saying that, Xiaoyao prepared to leave.
Wait.
Shang Ruai whispered. Let them in. Yes. Soon, two figures walked in. Mississippi Ingxue and Xuanmei both knelt on the ground. Miss, please punish us. Shang Ruai's eyes fell on Ingxue. Looking at her pale face, she couldn't help but recall the scene when she blocked in front of her without hesitation when the hidden weapon attacked. You guys go. Shang Ruai said in a low voice. Mississippi, I brought you here. I don't want to kill you. I'll let you go today as a way of repaying your kindness in saving me that day. From now on, we are even. But there is one thing I need you to do. Shang Ruai said coldly. Go back and tell Ling Feng that he can either come to see me in person or wait for me to kill him in person. Do you think I am a soft persimmon? Miss, we know we are wrong. Ingxue felt a dull pain in her heart when she heard her drive her away. Xuanmei burst into tears. Miss, we are willing to put aside our past grudges. We only ask you not to drive us away. Shang Ruai shook her head when she heard this. I've said it before, if you are unfaithful once, you will never be used again. If you have second thoughts, I will not stay with you anymore. Seeing her cold expression, Ingxue and Xuanmei knew that there was no room for redemption. They kowtowed 3 times to her back. After leaving the He family, Ingxue whispered, Xuanmei, are we really wrong? I don't know either. She shook her head. For so many years, we have lived in hatred, and everything we did was to avenge our parents and brother. Although the time I spent with the young lady was also for revenge, it was the happiest and most relaxed time of my life. Let's go. The things the young lady asked us to do are not finished yet. At this moment, her hand touched the package, and she was moved and quickly opened the package. She didn't know when 2 porcelain bottles appeared in the package. She followed the young lady all day, so she naturally knew what was in the 2 porcelain bottles. One was a pill for detoxification, and the other was a pill for restoring physical strength. Young lady. Ingxue's tears fell instantly. They did something to let the young lady down, and even had a plan to follow her, use her, and deceive her from the beginning, but even at this time, the young lady still thought of her. Xuanmei, from now on, our lives belong to the young lady. Shang Ruai stirred the bowl of ginseng tea and didn't drink it for a long time. Miss, this ginseng tea is cold. I'll change it for you. Shang Ruai put down the ginseng tea and shook her head. Go away. Miss, I have put 2 bottles of pills in their luggage as you ordered. Yes. She turned her eyes to the window and was suddenly stunned. It was snowing. Peony, bring my cloak. Miss, what are you doing? Xiaorao immediately became alert. Is the young lady going out? If the prince knew that the young lady went out to enjoy the snow on a snowy day, who knows what he would do? Miss, your body has not recovered yet, so it's better not to go out. Nothing, go out and take a look. She put on her cloak and walked out the door. It was snowing heavily today. Looking at the white ground, Shang Ruai couldn't help laughing. I don't know how long it has been since I saw the snow scene. I remember the last time I stood in the snow and admired the snow scenery was in my previous life. After several months of missions, they finally finished and gave themselves a long vacation. They agreed to climb a snowy mountain and stand on the top of a mountain to see all the other mountains. Such beautiful memories can only be kept in their hearts. If there hadn't been that betrayal, they might have climbed that snowy mountain again. No, not anymore, never again. I don't know how long it had been. Just when she was about to go back to her room, she suddenly heard an angry shout. Shang Ruai. Shang Ruai turned around and saw He Jingheng walking towards her with a dark face. I just came out to get some fresh air. I'm too lazy to listen to your explanation now. He strode forward, lifted her up and walked into the room. Shang Ruai felt that her internal organs were displaced and said angrily, Put me down quickly. He Jingheng turned a deaf ear to her and took her back to the room. He waved his hand, and the door closed. Yunqi, who ran behind him, saw this and couldn't help but sweat for her. How long has it been since I saw the prince get so angry? He Jingheng put her on the bed, his chest heaving violently. Although he was very angry at this time, his hands were very gentle. Do you want me off to death? I just went out to see the scenery. How did I you off? He Jingheng heard this and said angrily, "You are not well yet. How long have you been awake? I am a doctor, I know my body best, you don't have to worry. Haven't you heard the saying that doctors don't treat themselves?" Shang Ruai was choked by his words and glared at him. "I want to rest now, Prince. Please go back." She lay down, turned around, and faced him with her back. The next moment, the quilt behind her was lifted, Shang Ruai's body stiffened. Her body was surrounded by the rich scent of black bamboo. She had never been so close to someone lying together. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "I'm tired and want to sleep." He closed his eyes and said no more. In the face of his hooliganism, Shang Ruai didn't say anything. For some reason, she felt sleepy when she smelled the faint scent. She slowly closed her eyes and her breathing became even. He Jingheng slowly opened his eyes and looked sideways. He saw that she was curled up in the bed. This posture made her look like a little pitiful. He Jingheng thought about it and moved his body inside a few times. Seeing that she didn't move, he slowly reached out and held her in his arms. Shang Ruai buried her head in his arms, breathing on him one by one. He Jingheng swallowed his saliva and almost fled out of the room. Shang Ruai slowly opened her eyes. Where was the tiredness in her eyes? A triumphant smile appeared at the corner of her lips, and she turned over and fell asleep. He Jing came to the training ground and said to Yuntian and Yunqi, "You two, come here." "Prince, what do you want?" "Fight with me." "What? Fight with the prince?" They looked at each other. What's the difference between this and seeking death?
"Prince."
Before they finished speaking, He Jingheng swung his palm. The two of them hurriedly stretched out their hands to block it. After dozens of rounds, Yuntian was knocked to the ground by him. Yunqi had been specially trained by Shang Ruai before, so he lasted a little longer, but he was no match for him at all. He Jingheng's palm method today was very fast, and they didn't even have the strength to protect themselves. Ahem. Yunqi covered his chest and clasped his fists and said, "The prince is very skilled in martial arts. We can't defeat him." He Jingheng frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Why did your martial arts regress? Do you want to go back for special training again?" The two of them lowered their heads quickly. "Please punish me, Prince." He Jingheng still felt a fire burning in his body. At this moment, Yuntian whispered, "He must have been kicked out because he didn't get any benefits from the prince's wife, so he took it out on us." His voice was so low that even Yunqi, who was standing next to him, didn't hear it clearly, but He Jingheng heard it clearly. Yuntian only felt a fascinating gaze falling on him. Before he could react, he heard He Jingheng's voice, "I think you don't need to go back for training. This prince has nothing to do, so I will train you well." "What? The prince trained them? Is that training? It's clearly a way to get killed." It was not until the evening that Shang Ruai slowly woke up. This time she woke up completely different from the daytime. Her physical strength had been fully restored. Not only that, she also felt extremely comfortable, as light as a swallow. Could it be related to the energy particles in the space? At this moment, a strange force appeared in her body. She felt a sharp pain all over her body. She pressed her hands on her chest, as if countless needles were moving around in her heart. She cried out in pain. Her face was as pale as paper, and beads of sweat dripped from her forehead. It hurts too much. It hurts more than cutting the flesh with a knife." The pain lasted for a long time and finally stopped slowly. Just when she thought it was over, she felt even more intense pain, as if countless steel knives were moving around in her body. Without caring about anything else, Shang Ruai went directly into the space. She finally didn't have to endure it and cried out in pain.
Ah!
The intense pain almost made her faint. Finally, the pain slowly eased. She lay on the grass, gasping for air. At this moment, a pungent smell came. She slowly raised her hand and looked at the sticky stuff covering her body. This scene seemed familiar. Was it to remove all the impurities in the innermost part of the body? No wonder it hurts so much. She wanted to lie down for a while to recover her strength, but the smell on her body was really unbearable. After cleaning herself up, she came to the spiritual spring to drink water. Looking at her reflection in the pool, The corners of her lips curled up. The skin on her body and face was much more delicate than before. At this moment, Xiaobai came over. Shang Ruai touched its head and said with a smile, "Thank you for your hard work some time ago." Her eyes fell on Xiaobai's body and found a wound on its leg, which should be left in the previous fight. "You are injured." Shang Ruai couldn't help but laugh out loud. "So many of your subordinates are not injured, but you, the boss, are injured. I think you should give up the throne of Tiger King." Xiaobai whimpered in grievance. Shang Ruai put her hand on the wound, wanting to comfort it, but at this moment, she suddenly felt the strange power in her body gathering towards her palm. She looked at her palm, and a white mist emerged. At the moment this power appeared, all the tigers in the space stood up and ran towards her. Xiaobai walked up to her and kept rubbing his head against her palm. Shang Ruai put her palm on its head and saw that the white mist instantly penetrated into its body. The hair on Xiaobai's body emitted a visibly bright light, and the wounds on his body healed quickly without leaving any trace. She looked at her palm in disbelief. She could feel that this power was exactly the same as the power in the energy particles that appeared in the previous space. The other tigers squatted around her, looking at her expectantly. Shang Ruai was a little helpless. It was hard to imagine that she saw flattery and fawning on the faces of a group of tigers. The group of tigers saw that she was slow to move, and they couldn't help feeling aggrieved. Shang Ruai had no choice but to wave to them. Seeing this, the group of tigers were about to run over like crazy, and they heard a low roar from Xiaobai's throat. Hearing this, the tigers hurriedly stopped and looked at it in horror. Xiaobai stood in front of her. Shang Ruai roared again, and all the tigers retreated in disgrace. The next scene made Shang Ruai stunned. The tigers began to line up like humans. "Are tigers so smart?" Shang Ruai stretched out her hand and gently pressed on the head of each tiger, trying to mobilize the power in her body. Every tiger has been baptized by the power, and its physique and fur have undergone very obvious changes. The tigers that have absorbed the power all ran back to their own territory and fell asleep happily. It seems that the power in her body can be used to heal patients, both internal and external injuries. At this time, Xiaoyao's voice came over. "Miss, are you awake?" Shang Ruai came out of the space and whispered, "Come in." "Miss, do you feel better?" Xiaoyao looked at her face and couldn't help but be stunned. "What's wrong?" Xiaoyao looked at her face for a long time, but couldn't explain it. She just smiled and said, "I can't explain it either, but I think the young lady seems to be more beautiful. In short, she is different." Shang Ruai stood up. "It's completely healed." She looked outside the door. "Where are Yuntian and Yunqi?" Xiaoyao's face looked a little unnatural when she heard it. "What's wrong?" "Miss, go and take a look." "What happened?" "Yuntian and Yunqi are being punished by the son-in-law." Shang Ruai couldn't help but get interested when she heard it. Before she arrived at the back school, she heard bursts of wailing. When she came closer, she saw Yuntian standing there with a bruised face. "What's wrong with your young master today? What's wrong with him?" Shang Ruai looked at his face and couldn't help laughing. "What a good face. Tut tut tut. If it weren't for this dress, I'm afraid I wouldn't recognize you." Yuntian smiled bitterly and said nothing. "Who knows what's wrong with the young master?" He Jingheng heard her voice, tapped his toes, flew down the ring and landed opposite her. "Why did you come out?" He reached out and gathered her cloak. "You are not afraid of freezing." Among the people who fought with He Jingheng, there were several leaders of the Iron Feather Guard, all of whom were highly skilled in martial arts. Although they knew that Shang Ruai was their mistress, they did not know much about her. They only knew that she was the concubine of Shang Xiangye. Although they looked respectful on the surface and bowed to her, they were not convinced in their hearts. However, it must be said that the appearance of this prince's wife is first class. Looking through all the noble ladies of Bailey, no one can compare to her in terms of appearance or temperament. But she is the daughter of Shang Nian, who is mortal enemies with their Dingwa Palace, and I don't know why the prince likes her so much. My health has improved a lot. I heard that you were in the training ground, so I wanted to come and see you. She looked past him and looked at the huge fighting ring. Shang Ruai smiled and said, "How about a match?"
What?
Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Fight with their prince? Is this prince's wife not smart? Fight with me? He Jingheng smiled and said, "Are you sure?" "Why, you don't dare." He Jingheng curled his lips slightly. "Let's fight, but what's the prize?" "If there's a prize." Shang Ruai smiled and pointed, and saw a white tiger standing in the wind not far away. The secret guards who have been in the He family all know that their prince's wife has raised a group of elusive white tigers, but how could the Iron Feather Guards know? When the white tiger appeared, a general of the Iron Feather Guards reacted quickly and rushed up with a long sword. Before Yuntian could say no, he saw the white tiger dodge his long sword at a very fast speed. Before he could turn around, the white tiger had come behind him, and the tiger's paw with a sharp palm wind slapped his back. "Don't hurt the vital parts," Shang Ruai said lightly. A trace of regret flashed across the white tiger's eyes, and the tiger's paw dropped 70% of its force and landed on his back. Zhou Yu, the third commander of the Iron Feather Guard, had a sweet and fishy taste in his throat, and his body fell to the ground in a very embarrassed state. He just wanted to get up, but he saw the white tiger's paw pressing on his back, with a victorious attitude. Shang Ruai smiled. "Keep your claws." A grievance whimpering sound came out of the white tiger's mouth, and everyone was very surprised to see this. They had never seen such a spiritual tiger, not to mention such a strong attack power. Ordinary tigers only know how to attack. How can they know how to use tactics? Shang Ruai was also very satisfied with its performance and waved to it. The white tiger threw Zhou Yu away and ran to Shang Ruai happily, squatting in front of her, sweeping its big tail, just like a loyal dog. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but twitch at the corners of their mouths. Shang Ruai patted her head, and the energy in her palm was secretly sent into its body. The white tiger squinted its eyes in enjoyment. Seeing this, He Jingheng raised his eyebrows slightly and couldn't help but be curious. How did she tame these beasts? No one knew that at this moment, the energy in her palm appeared, and all the animals within 100 miles began to get agitated. Zhou Yu stood up and looked at the white tiger that stepped on him under its claws, lying next to the prince's wife, like a well-behaved cat. He was really shocked. He felt the strong force of the white tiger when it slapped him, and that force was after the prince's wife reminded it to bear the force. If it was slapped down, I'm afraid that today's broken bones and tendons would be the lightest, and maybe even my life would not be saved. His eyes fell on the prince's wife. How strong would this prince's wife be if she could tame such a ferocious white tiger? "I'll use this white tiger as a prize. What do you think?" He Jingheng heard it and nodded. The white tiger heard it clearly and snorted a few times in displeasure. Shang Ruai patted its head. "Don't worry, I won't lose you." She looked at He Jingheng. "What about the prince? What is the prince's prize?" He Jingheng saw a cunning look in her eyes, smiled and said, "This prince will use these 3,000 Iron Feather Guards as the prize. How about it?" "What? Using the Iron Feather Guard as a prize?" "That's the Iron Feather Guard. The Iron Feather Guard that is famous in the 4 countries and is feared by everyone. How could it be used as a prize?" "Prince," the commander-in-chief hurriedly said, "please think twice, Prince. There are 40,000 people in the Iron Feather Guard, and they're just one of the teams, but they are the elite team in the Iron Feather Guard. What if the prince really loses them? Moreover, the prize of the prince's wife is just a white tiger, and they are only worth a tiger?" Shang Ruai looked at them, TSK, and said reluctantly, "Well, considering that you are exiled, you probably don't have anything good to show, so I won't force it." "Nothing good?" The Iron Feather Guards were almost mad when they heard it. This woman actually looked down on them. He Jingheng smiled. "Of course, I don't have as rich a background as my wife. Everyone. When did their prince become so slick? Why do they always look at them coldly?" Shang Ruai stepped on her toes and landed on the stage like a butterfly. He Jingheng knew that she had her own secrets, such as the internal force in her body. When they just got married, he was sure that Shang Ruai did not have any internal force in her body, but she was very familiar with the skills of close combat. It was really strange that she suddenly had internal force now. Moreover, this internal force was so deep that it would be impossible to practice without more than 10 years or even decades of hard training. She did nothing, but this internal force seemed to fall from the sky. That's right, it fell from the sky. I heard from Yuntian and others that she practiced this internal force in her dream after sleeping. How could there be such a magical thing in the world? But such a magical thing really appeared in front of him. It's only been more than a month since I practiced internal force, and I didn't expect it to be so strong. But what's the secret?
What?
More than a month? What secret can make you use Qigong freely in more than a month?
Can you teach them?
But if it was only a month, she must be far inferior to their prince, and the Iron Feather Guards finally put down their worries. No wonder the prince said to use us as the prize. He must know that the prince's wife is definitely not his opponent. A person who has only learned martial arts for a month dares to compete with the prince. Does she really think she is a god? I saw that the prince can compete with her with one hand. It seems that the white tiger is definitely in the prince's pocket. Yuntian, who was standing aside, heard this and looked at each other. Why do they feel that this is not the case? Although the prince's wife has only practiced internal strength for a month, her profound skills are not much worse than the prince's, and the prince came out of the room in such a mess and took his anger out on them, which must have displeased the prince's wife. Now that the prince agreed to compete with the prince's wife, he might want to use the Iron Feather Guards to apologize to the prince's wife and please her. Now it seems that the Iron Feather Guard is doomed to lose. They feel that they have been defeated. He Jingheng flew to the ring and smiled and said, "Please show mercy, madam." Shang Ruai raised her hand and said, "I won't take advantage of you. Just attack." She swept her eyes over the Iron Feather Guards below the stage. She was determined to defeat the Iron Feather Guards today. "Madam, do you have a weapon that suits you?" Shang Ruai drew out the short knife from her waist, untied the ribbon at her collar with one hand, grabbed one side of the cloak with one hand, and threw it hard. The ink-colored cloak flew straight down, and Yunqi hurriedly flew forward to catch it. Without the cover of the cloak, her slender figure was exposed to the air. She was holding a short sword, and the moonlight shone on the blade, emitting cold light, making the already cold weather even colder. He Jingheng frowned slightly. "Wearing so little, do you want to freeze to death?" He came to the side of the ring, picked up a long sword, and swung it vigorously, and the scabbard flew out. The Iron Feather Guards in the audience were stunned for a moment when they saw this. When they were fighting, the prince never took out the scabbard. He would only show his sharp blade when he was serious. In an instant, he soared into the air, and the long sword in his hand suddenly attacked Shang Ruai. Shang Ruai waved the short sword to resist, and her palm felt a violent vibration, and her wrist felt a little painful. She had never fought with He Jingheng before, and she didn't expect him to have such great strength. Shang Ruai gathered her internal force in her palm and slapped him on the chest. Feeling the power in her palm, He Jingheng also separated a hand and collided with it. Both of them took a few steps back. Hiss! The onlookers couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Although they only fought for a few rounds, they had been with He Jingheng for many years, so they naturally knew that he was not letting her win. Just now, was I seeing things? Did the Crown Prince's wife and the Crown Prince fight to a draw? That's what I wanted to ask. They looked at Shang Ruai in amazement. Did this ancestor really only learn for more than a month? How is this possible? Such fierce moves, every move is a killing move. Even if they have been learning since it would be difficult for them to have such deep internal strength as she has today. Shang Ruai waved the dagger in her hand lightly. Her body was as light as a colorful butterfly. The sword light flashed, hissing through the wind. Her body pointed at the sword and rose up. The moves in her hand were extremely fast. Everyone only felt the silver light flashing. They could hear the sound of fighting, but it was very difficult to catch her sword moves. Only He Jingheng could see her moves clearly. He was slightly shocked in his heart, and did not dare to despise her at all. In a blink of an eye, more than 100 rounds had passed, and the two of them could not even tell the winner. Shang Ruai had the support of space, so she was not tired at all. However, it was impossible to tell who was better in such a stalemate. At this moment, she had an idea, and her mind flashed, injecting the mysterious power into her palm. Since this power can heal diseases, it might have other functions. In an instant, she was as light as a swallow, and her figure appeared in front of He Jingheng with a flash of thought. The short sword in her hand stabbed out. He Jingheng's pupils shrank sharply, and he quickly turned around to avoid the blade. He swung the long sword in his hand, and the weapons met. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound, and the long sword in his hand was cut into two pieces. The short sword attacked him with unstoppable momentum. Shang Ruai frowned slightly, withdrew the power, shook her hand. The tip of the arrow pointed at herself, and the hilt of the sword was against his throat.
Who?
Shang Ruai took a deep breath, and a bright smile appeared at the corner of her lips. I won. At this time, the whole school field could only hear the sound of the whistling north wind. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in shock. The prince actually lost. How is it possible? How is this possible? Their eyes all fell on the hilt of the sword against their prince's throat, with no other expression except shock. He Jingheng threw the broken sword on the ground, and a doting smile appeared on the corner of his lips. Yes, you won.
Boom.
The Iron Feather Guards were immediately in an uproar. Lost, the prince actually lost. Then, as the prize for this competition, didn't we lose along with the prince? Their eyes fell on the white tiger lying on the ground, and they saw it looking at the two people on the ring with a calm face, as if the result of the competition should be like this. They were not as good as a white tiger. Shang Ruai retracted the dagger and looked at the sharp blade. Forget it, I don't want your Iron Feather Guards anymore. After all, even if I win today, it will not be glorious. The dagger in my hand is made of cold iron, and you only have an ordinary long sword in your hand. The weapons are not equal, so you are at a disadvantage, aren't you? The Iron Feather Guards were delighted when they heard this. Just when they thought they didn't have to follow Shang Ruai, they heard their prince say, "A gentleman's word is as good as a horse. I will not regret using them as the prize." The hearts of the Iron Feather Guards instantly fell to the bottom. It's over, it's completely over. He stretched out his hand to the side, and Yunqi walked forward with a very stern look and handed the cloak in his hand to him. He Jingheng took it and put it on her. It's cold and freezing. You must not take it lightly. Everyone sighed again. Their prince was completely defeated. Shang Ruai turned and walked to the side of the ring, looking at the Iron Feather Guard. You are all my soldiers from today. Do you have any objections? Objections? There are many. But how dare they say anything? It was the prince who bet on them and lost. Shang Ruai's eyes fell on them and saw that although they were respectful on the surface, their eyes were full of dissatisfaction and whispered, "If you don't want to, you can raise it, as long as you can beat me." Everyone promise her? The prince can't beat him. How can they win? However, as the most special existence in Dingwa Palace, the Iron Feather Guard naturally has some arrogance. Zhou Yu did not say anything. After all, he could not even beat the white tiger of the Crown Prince's consort. However, as the commander-in-chief of the Iron Feather Guard, Bai Zhou was naturally unwilling to accept it. Bai Zhou stepped forward and bowed, saying, "Your Highness, Crown Prince's consort, Bai Zhou has something to say."
Speak.
Although the Crown Prince's consort defeated the Crown Prince, you are the Crown Prince's consort after all. When fighting with the Crown Prince may have some concerns, so he did not use his full strength. Although I am the Crown Prince's soldier, I am now assigned to your command. Bai Zhou is willing to obey, but there is a prerequisite. What prerequisite? The Crown Prince's consort must defeat our 3 commanders. As long as you can win, we are willing to follow you, without any second thoughts. Hearing this, the Iron Feather Guards all looked up at Shang Ruai, with unwillingness in their eyes. Shang Ruai smiled. "Come on, I just want to meet the leader of the Iron Feather Guard." Shang Ruai looked at He Jingheng. It is said that the Iron Feather Guard is a sharp blade of the Dingwa Palace. Today, let me see how fast this blade of yours is. She pointed at Bai Zhou, Zhou Yu, and the second leader Yi Su. It's getting late. The 3 of you come together. Come together? Hearing this, the three looked at each other and jumped onto the stage. He Jingheng whispered, "Stop it, don't hurt anyone." Bai Zhou turned around, bowed, and said to He Jingheng, "Please rest assured, Your Majesty, we will never let the Crown Prince's consort get hurt." For a long while, he didn't hear the Crown Prince's answer. He looked up and saw that their Crown Prince's eyes were on the Crown Prince's consort. Could it be that the words just now were used to instruct the Crown Prince's consort? "Don't worry," Shang Ruai said with a smile. "You, the Iron Feather Guard, are a gold nugget and a silver nugget." The three surrounded Shang Ruai in the middle, with sword flowers flying in their hands and sharp sword moves. Shang Ruai still had the short sword in her hand. After dozens of moves, she waved her palm and strong internal force gushed out. Zhou Yu was directly slapped away by her move and almost fell on the edge of the ring. Feeling her strong internal force, Zhou Yu immediately stopped attacking and stood on the edge of the ring. Shang Ruai looked at the two people opposite her. She gathered the strength in her body into her palm and punched out. The two people actually fell directly from the ring. Hiss! This internal force, even if they practiced for another 10 or 20 years, they would not be able to match it. After fighting with her, they could conclude that the prince should not have held back on her. They would not feel ashamed to recognize the woman who could defeat the prince as their master. The two got up from the ground and knelt on one knee. The next moment, all the Iron Feather Guards in the entire training ground knelt on the ground. Iron Feather Guards, swear to be loyal to the Crown Prince's consort until death. Swear to be loyal until death. Swear to be loyal until death. Seeing this, Shang Ruai raised the corners of her lips slightly, standing on the stage, her eyes shining like stars. "Since you are willing to recognize me as your master, the first thing you have to learn is that military orders are as heavy as mountains, and the second thing." She looked at the Iron Feather Guards who were kneeling straight and said in a deep voice, "Status is a reflection of strength. You now have the title of the First Iron Cavalry, but in fact, you are not even a little bit worse." Her words made some Iron Feather Guards unhappy, but when they looked up at the three commanders who were beaten very badly, no matter how dissatisfied they were, they could only swallow it. "Starting tomorrow, you will give up the halo of the Iron Feather Guards and hide among the common people." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. What would they do if they didn't become Iron Feather Guards? "I will see you at the parade ground at 11 a.m. tomorrow." Yes. Although they did not know the purpose of the Crown Princess's action, they would absolutely obey her orders. After everyone left, Shang Ruai looked at He Jingheng and whispered, "Why do you want to hand them over to me?" She had sensed He Jingheng's purpose since she stood on the parade ground, so she proposed to compete with him. "You promised to help me train the soldiers before. Does that still count?" "Why let me train the soldiers?" Shang Ruai smiled and said, "You know I'm not a person who follows the rules. If your illness is handed over to me, it may not be the same as it was before long." "No problem. Since they are handed over to you, they are your soldiers. Then I'd be disrespectful to refuse." Yuntian and Yunqi stood in the distance, with bruised faces and noses, and whispered, "Sure enough, we lost to them." Tsk. The prince actually gave up the Iron Feather Guards just to make the prince's wife smile. The next morning, before dawn, Shang Ruai came to the training ground. At this time, the Iron Feather Guards had assembled. Bai Zhou stepped forward, bowed, and said, 3,000 Iron Feather Guards have been assembled. Please give us your instructions, Princess. I said yesterday that from now on, the Iron Feather Guards will become a thing of the past. What instructions does Princess have?
Please tell me.
Shang Ruai stepped forward and said in a cold voice, "From now on, I will give you special training. You will become the real sword hidden in the dark. If you are separated, you can fight alone and fight 100. If you are together, you can cooperate with each other, reorganize the army, and be invincible." She walked in front of everyone. "I hope you can become such people. Are you willing?" Shang Ruai's words were like a military drum, hitting their hearts hard. Of course, they wanted such a person. "Crown Princess, we are willing." Bai Zhou bowed. Shang Ruai set her eyes on them, and her voice was slightly raised. "Are you willing?" "Yes."
Yes.
3,000 people in unison. She waved her hand, and Yuntian and others brought up several large boxes. There are all pills in here.
What?
So many pills. 20 pills each, 10 for injuries and 10 for detoxification. 20 pills, how can you eat them all? Shang Ruai saw their faces and knew what they were thinking. You think there are too many pills now, but when the special training really starts, you will probably feel that it is not enough, and you will have no place to cry at that time. Shang Ruai's lips curled slightly, and Zhou Yu saw the smile on her lips and couldn't help but shudder. For some reason, he felt that the Crown Prince's consort was more terrifying than the Crown Prince. The first level. Shang Ruai snapped her fingers, and everyone was alert. Dozens of tigers were seen walking slowly towards them from all directions. Zhou Yu's body stiffened instantly, and the wound on his back ached slightly. They looked at these tigers in shock. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never believe that there was someone in the world who could tame so many tigers. The most terrifying thing was that this person was such a young woman. Shang Ruai touched Xiaobai's head and at the same time poured her strength into its body. She whispered, "Without any weapons, without using qinggong, without hurting the white tiger and avoiding its attack, walk to the back door, and you will pass this level." Everyone frowned when they heard this. The princess meant that they had to rely on agility to avoid the tiger's attack. They looked around. There were dozens of tigers. If they could avoid one, they might not be able to avoid another one, and they might even be clawed by it. It doesn't matter if they get hurt, but I'm afraid they'll be killed in one. Shang Ruai sent energy into the tigers one by one. This time it lasted longer, and the beasts in the mountains became more agitated than before. Finally, the wolves in the mountains couldn't hold back any longer, and then several tigers in the mountains also came down the mountain and ran towards the place where the smell appeared. At this time, Shang Ruai, who still knew nothing about the situation on the mountain, shook her head at the chaotic training ground. "You still dare to call yourself the king's teacher?" After a long time, no one passed the test successfully. Not only that, several people had already taken 2 pills. Shang Ruai looked at Yuntian and whispered, "You just keep an eye on it here." "Yes, princess." As soon as Shang Ruai returned to the courtyard, she was pestered by Hyuni. "Sister-in-law, please teach me. I will definitely learn it well. I don't have an apprentice like you who works for 3 days and rests for 2 days." She nodded Hyuni's head. "You'd better find someone else as soon as possible." "Sister-in-law." Hyuni wanted to say something else. Then she heard He Jinghing's voice. "Do you have nothing to do? Why do you pester your sister-in-law all day long?" Hyuni pouted. She was still a little scared facing her brother. I just want to learn kung fu." Hyuni said softly. "Before, my sister-in-law was the only one fighting the enemy in southern Xinjiang. Although I was anxious, I couldn't help it all."
Yeah.
He Jinghing sat in front of the table and picked up a letter to read it. "You just don't make trouble, but you are fighting to the death. Have you ever thought that if you become a hostage, your sister-in-law will have to spend a lot of effort to win?" Hyuni rolled her eyes at him and was about to talk to Shang Ruai again and ask her to teach her martial arts. At this moment, a guard ran in breathlessly. "Your Highness, Princess, it's not good. According to my observation, a group of wild beasts are coming towards our village. Rather than saying it's a village, it's actually coming towards their He family."
What?
Hyuni exclaimed. "Did you see it clearly?" "Miss, it's absolutely true." Shang Ruai's mind moved. Could it be because of the energy in her space? After all, she had seen with her own eyes how crazy the tigers in the space were for energy. He Jinghing said in a deep voice, "Don't come out of the room. I'll go and take a look." After he left, Shang Ruai asked the guards to send Hyuni back to the room where Xiao Huang was guarding, so there was no need to worry even if wild animals ran in. Shang Ruai came to the outside of the courtyard and stopped far away from the house. She gathered the energy in her palm and soon attracted a few rabbits and pheasants. After a while, Shang Ruai suddenly felt the ground shaking. Hundreds of wild beasts gathered towards her. Those wild beasts that were originally going to the He family suddenly changed their route and ran towards her. Countless wild beasts surrounded her in the middle, their eyes obsessed with the white mist in her palm. The Wolf King stared at her with cold eyes, and just as he was about to get closer, a white shadow suddenly appeared in front of her. Roar! The warning roar made all the wild beasts stop in their tracks. The little white tiger's eyes were wide open, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. At this moment, two white tigers coming down from the mountain slowly approached it. Little Bai kept growling in his throat, but the two white tigers kept provoking Little Bai under the stimulation of energy. Little Bai was extremely impatient. After getting a nod from Shangruai, he jumped up, and his huge tiger claws directly pressed one of the white tigers to the ground. The sharp nails pierced into the skin of the white tiger, and blood flowed. Seeing this, the other white tiger did not dare to move forward, and looked at Xiao Bai with fear in his eyes. Shang Ruai waved her hand and took the wolves, tigers, and lions here into the space. Shang Ruai sat on the chair, and the beasts were a little confused. Where is this? Shang Ruai poured the energy in her hand into their bodies. With just a little, the beasts could understand what she meant by speaking. Do you want to have this energy often? They nodded. Of course they wanted to. If you want, then help me guard this village. Shang Ruai smiled and said, Don't let other beasts attack the people here. As long as you can do this, I will regularly replenish your energy. She looked at the Wolf King in the wolf pack. There was a huge wound on his back, which had begun to fester. Shang Ruai walked forward and put her hand on it. As energy continued to flow in, the wound began to gradually heal. Although the beasts are not as intelligent as humans, they also know how to think. Feeling the changes in his body, especially the wound on his back that has begun to heal slowly, the Wolf King finally lowered his proud head and submitted. As for the other beasts, under the intimidation of Xiao Bai, they naturally obeyed. Shang Ruai never thought that one day she would become a tamer, and she was also amused and helpless. However, if you want more energy, you can exchange it in other forms. The beasts looked at her in confusion. For example, if you help hunt, save people, or participate in battles and make meritorious contributions, these can be used to exchange for energy. Xiao Bai almost laughed out loud when he heard this. How can the master tame the beasts? It's clearly abducting them and letting them work. But the beasts were extremely excited when they heard this. Xiao Bai glanced at them and said, You ignorant things, quickly put away your big teeth that are about to fly out of your mouths. It's really embarrassing for the beasts. He Jingheng and others came to the training ground, stood on the high platform and looked out. Where is the shadow of the beasts? The people who came to report were also very confused. They had just seen the smoke and dust, but now they couldn't see any hair. Is this what you said, surrounded by wild beasts? This. At this time, a secret guard said loudly, Prince, look. There are wolves and lions, followed by 2 tigers, coming towards us. Everyone became nervous after hearing this. The wolf pack was okay, but the lion pack was a bit tricky. Just when they were ready for battle, they heard a secret guard say, No, there are 2 children over there. Everyone looked in the direction of his hand-break forehead. There were indeed 2 children playing there, and they didn't realize that danger was coming. At this time, even if they had wings, they couldn't fly over. Just when everyone felt sad for the 2 children, they saw the Wolf King and Lion King running in the front running towards the 2 children. They were too far away and they couldn't shoot them even with bows and arrows. It's over. The 2 children will definitely be buried in the mouths of beasts. The Wolf King and the Lion King came to the 2 children and stopped suddenly. The 2 children were so scared that they couldn't even move. At this time, the Lion King and the Wolf King moved. They bit their clothes gently with their mouths, picked them up very gently, and put them in a safe place to ensure that they would not be hurt by the running wolves and lions. After doing all this, the Wolf King and the Lion King glared at each other, and there was resentment in their eyes that the other party was meddling and stealing their credit. After the wolves and lions behind caught up, they continued to run towards the village. I must not have woken up. A secret guard blinked, otherwise how could he see this scene? At this moment, a slap came over. What are you doing? He covered his face and said angrily, Do you feel pain? Another secret guard smiled and said, I also think it's a dream, So I slap you to see if you feel pain. Not only them, but everyone was stunned by this. Even He Jingheng was somewhat shocked. Seeing them continue to run towards the village, the secret guards had already set up their bows and arrows. Prince, do you want to shoot? Yun Tian asked. He Jingheng shook his head. Wait a minute. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the wolf tribe, lion group, and tiger group suddenly split into 3 groups. The tiger stopped at the entrance of the village, the lion group ran to the south, and the wolf tribe guarded the north, and their house was in the east. Report to the prince. A secret guard ran over and said in shock, the beasts have settled around the village. At this moment, a sharp-eyed secret guard saw 2 figures slowly appearing at the entrance of the village. Prince, it's bad. It's the prince's wife. Seeing this, the golden feather guards picked up their weapons and were ready to go to the rescue at any time. He Jingheng looked over and saw Shang Ruai walking leisurely with Xiao Bai. Prince, there are 2 tigers lurking there. Yun Tian said in a deep voice. Why don't I take a few brothers to meet them? Yun Qi rolled his eyes at him. What's the big deal about 2 tigers? Didn't you see that there was a bigger, white tiger following the crown prince's wife? Besides, even if there was no white tiger, the 2 tigers would not pose any threat to the crown prince's wife. The next scene was unforgettable for everyone. The 2 tigers stood up quickly and came to the side of the road. Just when everyone thought there would be danger, the 2 tigers suddenly squatted on the ground, shaking their tails at her with a flattering look on their faces. Shang Ruai smiled helplessly and patted their heads. The energy entered their bodies, and the 2 tigers were extremely excited, shaking their tails even more vigorously. Those 2, are they really tigers? They must be fake. How could they be tigers? They were clearly servants in front of someone's house. As Shang Ruai walked into the village, all the wolves and lions stood up and lowered their heads. Hiss! This is a salute to the crown prince's wife. He Jingheng's eyes were deep as he looked at the woman who was walking towards him step by step. At this moment, the Wolf King and the Lion King ran to Shang Ruai. The Wolf King opened his mouth, stuck out his tongue, and shook his big furry tail behind him. The Lion King squatted in front of her, looking like a pet. Shang Ruai stretched out her hand and placed it on their heads. Pure energy entered their bodies. The eyes of the Lion King and the Wolf King lit up. When Shang Ruai withdrew her hand, they bowed deeply again and then returned to their own territory. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them, unable to come back to their senses for a long time. At this moment, Zhang Hu's voice came over. Miracle, miracle, he murmured in a trembling voice. Definitely a miracle. He Jingheng's eyes never left her from beginning to end. It would be a lie to say that he was not shocked, but he had long known that he, the prince's consort, was different from ordinary people, and today's scene did not seem so difficult to accept. The Iron Feather Guards were stunned. They were glad that they knew the situation and sighed that they had such a powerful master. Shang Ruai came to the parade ground, saw everyone looking at her, and said with a smile, "What's wrong?" "Princess, just now." Yunqi swallowed. "Those lions and wolves, are they yours too?" Shang Ruai nodded. "In the future, the wolf pack and lion pack will be responsible for the safety of the village in the north and south directions. The 2 tigers will be responsible for the west entrance of the village. As for the east, it is our He family." Shang Ruai's eyes fell on the secret guards. If so many people can't defend, it means you are not as good as lions and tigers. At this time, the secret guards in the parade ground had experienced the siege of southern Xinjiang with her, and they had long been convinced by her. In addition, after today's scene, they naturally had no objection to her orders. "I will definitely guard it well and not embarrass the crown prince's wife." He Jingheng walked up to her and smiled. "I really don't know how many things you still have that I don't know." "A lot." Shang Ruai looked at him with a secret joy in her heart. Perhaps He Jingheng already knew that she was unusual, but he never asked her about it. Last time when southern Xinjiang invaded, she took out so many grenades, and he never asked where those things came from. Since then, those beasts have settled here. At first, the villagers were scared to death. Later, They heard that these were pets raised by the crown prince's wives, specially used to protect everyone's safety. They remembered the scene when they were protected by tigers in the yard that day, and they all felt relieved. Sometimes, when someone's children ran away because of mischief, they would chase them back. Sometimes they would go to the mountains to catch some game and send it to the He Mansion. After doing these things, they would wait outside Shangruai's yard. In the eyes of everyone, they wanted to be patted on the head by the crown prince's wife, but in fact they wanted energy. Of course, this matter was known only to them. These days, Shangruai always goes out early and comes back late. No one knows what she is busy with. Even when He Jingheng asked, she evaded the question. He Jingheng knew that she had a lot on her mind, so he stopped asking and let her do whatever she wanted. That day, Yunqi walked into the study and whispered, "Prince, the urgent edict of 800 miles has been delivered, and the imperial envoy has arrived in the county." "Oh, so what? Mr. Su is here too." He Jingheng frowned slightly. "What is he doing here? Maybe he came to see the excitement." Yunqi pouted. It would be abnormal if Mr. Su didn't come. "Where is the crown prince's concubine?" Before dawn, the crown prince's concubine left with the Iron Feather Guard. When he said this, his tone was depressed. Obviously, he was the crown prince's concubine's secret guard, but she didn't take him with her, and even Ah Qingdu followed her. He Jingheng knew what he was thinking and rolled his eyes at him. "What are you, a secret guard? Didn't I get left behind too?" The imperial envoy has sent several visiting cards. I wonder if the prince is willing to summon him?
No.
He Jingheng sneered. What does he think our Dingwa Palace is? He demoted us when he said so, exiled us when he said so. Now that the smoke of war is everywhere, he feels that he can't do without us, so he finds an excuse to reinstate us. Who does he think he is, and who does he think our Dingwa Palace is? Yunqi concluded that the he mentioned by the prince was undoubtedly Emperor Tianshun. Shangruai took the Iron Feather Guard to a mountain stream under the cover of night. From today, for a period of 1 month, this will be your training place. Here? How to train here? Bai Zhou stepped forward. Crown Princess, I'm afraid this place is not very good. This mountain stream, except for its flat terrain, has no advantages, and there are even some poisonous snakes and insects around it. Really? Shangruai smiled mysteriously, pointing to a small purple flower in the distance. Pick it off.
Yes.
Bai Zhou finished speaking, and just after taking a few steps, he heard a click under his feet. The next moment, the scenery in front of him changed, and the small flower had disappeared. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several arrows flew out. Bai Zhou tapped his feet lightly, and his body flew into the air. He thought he had escaped, but he didn't expect that several more arrows were shot. One of the arrows flew past his body and cut a deep wound on his arm. He thought it was just a skin injury, but he felt dizzy after taking a few steps. He quickly took out an antidote pill and slowly recovered after taking it. When he returned to the original position, the small flower appeared in front of him again. Everyone was stunned when they saw this. Princess, this. I have set up many formations and mechanisms here. Don't underestimate them. Any mistake may be life-threatening. Shangruai said with a smile, I will ask Bai Hu to bring food every day. I will wait for you at the exit of the mountain stream in a month. She pointed to the passage in the distance and said, After passing the passage, I will give you new tasks.
Yes.
The Iron Feather Guards were excited and couldn't help but eager to try. Shangruai gave a few simple instructions and turned to leave. As soon as he returned to the mansion, he saw Yunqi standing there with a depressed look on his face. What are you doing here? Hearing Shangruai's voice, Yunqi came over and whispered, Crown Princess.
What?
I also want to train with the Iron Feather Guards. Shangruai raised her eyebrows slightly. Train together? Looking at his expression, Shangruai understood. Okay, since you want to go, I will let Xiaobai lead the way, but let me be frank in advance, there is no turning back once the arrow is shot. There are many traps in the mountain stream. Whether you live or die depends on your own ability. Yes. Thank you, Crown Princess. At this time, He Jingheng came over and glared at Yunqi. Yunqi, on the other hand, didn't see it at all. He turned around, saluted, and left with Xiaobai. What are you laughing at? He Jingheng walked up to her, looked at her, and said, You've taken away everyone around me. I'll have no one around me in the future. Are you going to be my secret guard? How can there be no one? Shang Ruai pointed to several trees around her and said, There are 9 secret guards on 4 trees. She turned to the tree where 3 secret guards were squatting and said, If you don't get down, the branch will break. Before the 3 of them could react, they heard a click and the branch broke. 2 people fell from the tree in a very embarrassed manner. Look, it's broken. Shang Ruai had a smug smile on her face. Seeing this, He Jingheng couldn't help but stretched out his hand and pinched her face a few times. He said in a very low voice, I know you are unusual, but you should be more restrained.
What?
Shang Ruai's pupils shrank slightly. Otherwise, it will make your husband seem too incompetent. Shang Ruai was slightly shocked. What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? He Jingheng didn't say anything, just smiled. Seeing the alert look on her face, He Jingheng felt a little bitter in his heart. It seems that she still doesn't trust him enough. Nothing. At this moment, Yun Tian came over. Prince, the court is here again.
No.
He Jingheng said coldly. There is no need to report such things in the future.
But what?
He Jingheng was a little impatient. For some reason, every time he stayed alone with Shang Ruai for a while, all kinds of things came to him. But Mr. Su is here too. Mr. Su? Why did Su Zimo come with him? What's the matter with Su Zimo?
No.
He Jingheng said coldly. Let him go back. What are the people from the court doing? Shang Ruai asked softly. He wants us to go back and continue to work for him. He Jingheng snorted coldly. He has a good plan. He waved his hand. Let them go away. Yun Tian came to the village entrance and said to the people standing a few hundred meters away, The prince is not feeling well and will not see guests. Please go back. The person in charge of coming this time was Su Yuan, a second-rank minister. Su Yuan had no grudges against the Dinghua Palace and was considered upright in the court. He had previously come forward to plead for the exile of the Dinghua Palace. Emperor Tianshun wanted him to come, and He Jingheng would give him this face anyway. Su Yuan knew He Jingheng's temper very well. How could such an arrogant person agree to re-establish the Dinghua Palace in this way? Wouldn't that be equivalent to admitting the crime of treason in the Dinghua Palace? What is the reinstatement of the official position after making meritorious contributions? Clearly there is no crime, only merit. So he used the excuse that he was too old to travel long distances, and Emperor Tianshun had no choice but to send Zhongshu Ling Zhengqi to come. He had been at odds with the Dinghua Palace for a long time, and he had received instructions from concubine Zhao, so he did not come here sincerely to confer the title. Before leaving Beijing, concubine Zhao had sent someone to tell him to find an opportunity to convict the Dinghua Palace of treason and disobeying the imperial edict. To her, the Dinghua Palace was not the patron saint of Tianshun at all, but her son's death warrant. The Dinghua Palace was powerful, and if there was a rebellious heart, how could her son have a good end? She would not allow, and would never allow, any factors that would threaten the crown prince's ascension to the throne. For this reason, she would never allow anyone from the Dinghua Palace to return to Beijing. At this time, Zhengqi looked at Yun Tian with anger on his face. Although he was far away, he could still feel the contempt in Yun Tian's tone. Rebellion! Rebellion! Zhengqi said angrily. I came here with the imperial edict, but He Jingheng refused to see me. He is really tired of living. Sir Zheng. Su Zimo stepped forward and pouted. Can I still go in? If not, I will go back first. I didn't sleep all night last night, and I am exhausted. Sleep, sleep, sleep. You only know how to sleep. We have been here for so long, and we can't even enter this village, and you are still sleeping. Zhengqi stared at him and said loudly, You should think of a way. Last night, the sound of stringed instruments in his room lasted until dawn. He must have been fooling around with those singing girls all night. He has been here for so long, and he either goes to the restaurant or listens to music in the mansion all day. He doesn't think of any way. People who don't know him would think he came here to travel. Facing his beard blowing and glaring, Su Zimo didn't take it seriously at all. They can't see He Jingheng, but he meets that ancestor every day. Last night, he was dragged into playing chess all night, and he could only get away by letting the singing girl sing in his room. He Jingheng, that, dragged him into the water when he didn't have a wife to accompany him. Sir Zheng, if you don't go back, then I will go back first. He yawned and walked towards a carriage. Stop right there. Zheng Qi stopped him. Aren't you on good terms with him? Send something in. Maybe he will let us in for your sake? Su Zimo looked at him as if he was looking at a fool. Could it be that He Jingheng didn't know he was there? Without waiting for him to speak, Zheng Qi pulled off the jade pendant from his waist and shouted to Yun Tian, "Tell your son to tell him that Su Zimo wants to see you." Yun Tian was expected to come and take the jade pendant, but he just bowed and said, "My son said that if Mr. Su comes, he will release the tiger to bite people." What the? Release the tiger to bite people? As soon as Yun Tian finished speaking, the two tigers slowly stood up and looked at them with drooping faces. Zheng Qi was shocked. Someone come. Su Zimo spread his hands. Look, what did I say? Let's go back to sleep. After speaking, he took back his jade pendant, glared at him secretly, and then turned and left. Seeing Su Zimo return to the carriage, Zheng Qi dared not stay any longer and hurried back to the carriage. Just kidding. If it was Yun Tian who was walking towards them, he would not be afraid. After all, he was holding the imperial edict in his hand, and the whole world belonged to the king. Even if it was He Jingheng, he would kneel down when he saw the imperial edict, but it was different with tigers. How could a tiger care about an imperial edict? Could it be expected that it could read? Yun Tian returned to the mansion and told He Jingheng what had just happened. Shang Ruai smiled and said, "Let the tiger bite people?" She looked at He Jingheng. "Did you really come up with this?" He Jingheng glanced at Yun Tian, and Yun Tian hurriedly said, "Reply to the prince's wife. It was my subordinate who said nonsense." Well done. Yun Tian was delighted, and just as he was about to speak, he felt two eyes falling on him. He slowly raised his head and saw that the prince was looking at him with an unexpected expression. He was startled and hurriedly lowered his head. Zheng Qi and others returned to the post station, and they were so angry that they swept all the teapots on the table to the ground. Rebellion. It's really a rebellion. Sir, why don't we go back to the capital directly and say that the people in Dinghua Palace disobeyed the emperor's order and punish them directly? Isn't this what the imperial concubine meant? Zheng Qi frowned. Before leaving, the emperor suddenly notified that the young master of the Su family should accompany him. There must be a deep meaning behind it. Could it be that he was afraid that they would take revenge on each other and return home without waiting to see the people in Dinghua Palace, and then accuse them of disobeying the emperor's order?
No.
He said in a deep voice, Su Ziluo is still here. If we tell others about this, it won't be that they are disobeying the emperor's order, but that we have failed to fulfill our duties. It's not certain who will be punished. We were clearly refused entry by the Dinghua Palace. What do you mean refused entry? Where is the door to the Dinghua Palace? We haven't even entered the village, so where is the door? But it was clearly them who ordered the tigers to block the road, so we couldn't get in. The key point is that the tigers were not ordinary tigers. The rain of arrows shot by the archers did not hurt them at all. Hearing this, Zheng Qi slapped him on the forehead. Your brain. You also said that it was the tigers that blocked the road. Which eye of yours saw that the people of the Dinghua Palace ordered them? His eyes were deep. He didn't expect that their Dinghua Palace would have such deep scheming. Now it seems that the entire exile land is the territory of their Dinghua Palace. He didn't know that it was more than just the exile land. Now the whole Qingzhou is under the control of He Jingheng. From the moment they set foot in Qingzhou, their every move and every word was under his eyes. This matter needs to be considered in the long run. At night, a figure shuttled through the night sky. Su Zimo came to the entrance of the village. The two tigers saw that it was him, and they were too lazy to open their eyelids and fell asleep directly. TSK, 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 they are just two stupid tigers, look how scared Jing Qi and the others are. Hearing him say this, the two tigers, who had their eyes closed, opened their eyes instantly. Su Zimo walked forward a few steps and suddenly heard a low growl in his ear. He looked over and saw the tiger, which was originally drowsy, looking at him fiercely. What do you mean? Su Zimo took a step back, and the two tigers bared their fangs and rushed towards him without saying anything.
Ah!
Su Zimo's shout resounded throughout the village. When he arrived at He Jingheng's yard, the secret guards were startled. If they didn't look carefully, they would have thought he was a beggar. They saw that his outer robe was torn into strips, like rags. What are you wearing? He Jingheng glanced at him. Is this the popular style in the capital? Get lost. Su Zimo's face turned pale, staring at He Jingheng and said, I'm wondering, what do you keep in the Dingwa Palace? Okay, you can keep tigers, but what are the habits of the tigers in your palace? Why do they tear people's clothes? Why don't they let others wear them when they don't have robes? Yun Tian, who was standing at the door, couldn't help laughing when he heard this. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at? What's so funny?
Su Zimo said coldly.
Mr. Su. Yun Tian tried to hold back his laughter, and his whole body trembled uncontrollably. There are a few animal hairs stuck in your hair. What the? He touched his hair, and found that there were a few rooster feathers stuck in it. He remembered that in order to avoid the tiger's pursuit, he hid in the chicken coop. He Jingheng, pay for my clothes. He shouted to Yun Tian, hurry up and get some hot water, I want to take a bath. Yun Tian looked at He Jingheng, and when he nodded, he went to prepare hot water. Shang Ruai came back from the mountain stream and heard a sound in the room. Just as she was about to go in and take a look, the door of the room was opened and Su Zimo came out. He was wearing He Jingheng's clothes, and in his hand was the one that was torn by the tiger. Su Zimo didn't expect to meet her face to face, and subconsciously hid the clothes in his hand behind his back. After all, the scene just now was really unsightly. Mr. Su, why are you here so late? She looked him up and down, with an intriguing expression on her face. Su Zimo knew that she was thinking wrongly, and quickly waved his hands to explain. No, it's not what you think. What was I thinking? Shang Ruai smiled and said, what are you explaining so anxiously, Mr. Su? Su Zimo's face flushed, and he said angrily, you two are too bullying. Shang Ruai rolled his eyes at him. What is Mr. Su talking about? I don't understand at all. You? Su Zimo flicked his sleeves. If it weren't for the stupid tigers you raised, how could this young master be so embarrassed? Fortunately, there are only two of them. Shang Ruai raised her eyebrows and showed an ambiguous smile when she heard it. Stupid tigers?
Two?
Why, can you bring them here? He glanced at Shang Ruai. The two tigers were much more agile than ordinary tigers, and they would cooperate with each other. Otherwise, he would not be so embarrassed. I really can't bring them here. After all, they still have to guard the village. Shang Ruai finished speaking, and Su Zimo said, I'm not bragging, I just don't want to hurt them, otherwise, they are just stupid tigers. How can I take them seriously? After the voice fell, a familiar roar came from not far away. Su Zimo's heart was instantly hanging. At this moment, some black shadows suddenly appeared in front of him. The next moment, the black shadows became clearer and clearer. I saw dozens of tigers slowly walking out of the darkness. Before Su Zimo could speak, Shang Ruai continued, But you still don't think it's enough? She snapped her fingers, and another group of black shadows appeared. In a few breaths, dozens of tigers appeared in front of him. At this moment, the tigers were separated on both sides, and a passage appeared. A huge tiger slowly walked out of the passage.
The roar just now was made by it.
The little white tiger stared at Su Zimo, as if asking, Was it you who just said we were stupid tigers?
Su Zimo Berlinget.
Was it too late to run now? Obviously, it was too late, because his legs could no longer move. Master Su, is this enough? Su Zimo was almost crying, and he almost knelt down to kowtow to her. Aunt, I was wrong. The secret guards looked at him from the dark and curled their lips. Master Su could be so spineless. If Su Zimo knew what they were thinking, he would definitely sneer at them. Backbone? How much silver is a pound of backbone? What's the use of that thing? Forget about calling her aunt. If she can send these tigers away, she can even let him call her ancestor.
Aunt.
Seeing that she didn't react, he quickly changed his words. Ancestor, I really know I was wrong. He didn't want his clothes to become rags again, and with so many tigers, he didn't know if it would be his clothes or himself that would be torn into rags. Zhang Ruai heard this, smiled, waved her hand, and except for Xiaobai, the other tigers disappeared into the darkness again. She walked into the room and saw He Jingheng reading a book. Su Zimo rolled his eyes at him. This guy was clearly watching a show, watching him being bullied by his wife. Fortunately, he was still a brother. Cut off the robe and break the ties. He Jingheng glanced at him, put down the book in his hand, stood up and walked to Zhang Ruoi. Seeing that she looked normal, he smiled and said, Do you want someone to cook some midnight snacks? Cook midnight snacks. What midnight snacks? Su Zimo rolled his eyes. He almost became the midnight snack for the tigers. No need, you guys chat, I'm going to rest. He Jingheng heard this and asked Yun Tian to bring the cloak. What are you going to do? Su Zimo looked at his actions and had a bad feeling in his heart. He Jingheng didn't say anything, but just put on his outer robe and walked outside. Yun Tian walked up to him and made a gesture of invitation. Master Su, the crown prince's wife wants to